What was that? Victoria turned slowly when she heard Elizabeth's voice, her features, and tone of great shock. And when she found Elizabeth extending her hand towards Robin waiting to receive something from him, she quickly confirmed what she suspected and cried out loudly, "Elizabeth, are you mad? Do you want to be his slave?" Elizabeth picked up the metal tablet Robin had thrown at her, looked deeply at it for a few moments without a sound, then responded with a weak voice, "His Excellency said that he would retain us as the rulers of our continents and that he would buy our resources if he wanted something from them. He technically offered us great benefits in return for achieving eternal peace on the planet. Wouldn't that be good for us, too? To move freely on all continents and not worry about wars. That's good enough for me. His Excellency?" "Nonsense, you are trying to convince yourself with that bullshit because you think he will win the war if it breaks out. Think, Elizabeth, if we help each other out, there's a good chance we will win." Victoria took a few steps towards Elizabeth and shouted, "And there is a greater chance that we will not be victorious and our families will be annihilated. You have seen the army of demons in action. You have seen how terrifying they can be. Even if we win somehow now, we will lose huge numbers of our family members and our lands will be burned. I do not want my lands to get burned." Elizabeth spoke slowly and then inserted her spiritual sense into the metal tablet. "I swear to be completely loyal to His Excellency Robin Burton and not to harm his interests and—" "Elizabeth!" Wind Emperor Alexander raised his hand as if he wanted to say something, but no sound came out of his mouth. He turned to look at the ground again. "You bitch! We three promised to stand on one front and defend each other, and you just sold us out the first chance you get? Traitor!" Water Empress Victoria pointed her forefinger at Elizabeth and yelled in a voice tinged with panic. She knew what Elizabeth's submission now meant. "And if I violate any of these terms, I deserve to die. I feel something in my soul. Something like a lock. This tablet is really not normal, and these are not just words. I feel like I might actually die if I violate anything." No wonder the flame sages took it seriously. Elizabeth flipped the board left and right in astonishment, completely ignoring Victoria. "You!" Victoria felt extremely offended by this disregard, and some ice began to gather around her palm, killing intent clearly starting to seep out. Suddenly there was a shadow between Victoria and Elizabeth. That person looked deep into Victoria's eyes with a look that seemed normal, but had a lot of power and menace behind it, and spoke. "Put your hand down. Now." It was Old Goo. No one knew when he moved and when he stood in front of Victoria. Everything happened so fast. Even Elizabeth looked at Victoria with a slight smile but a defiant eye. Victoria moved her eyes between Old Goo and Elizabeth angrily, but also with some visible fear. That's what she was most afraid of. That's why she tried to get them out of there many times since the meeting started. The balance of power has been broken. When they arrived at the ancestral continent, they were the four unrivaled emperors. What could possibly go wrong? Even if a battle broke out at the top of the hill and war was declared, she fully believed that the four of them could wreak havoc in Robin's army or even kill Robin himself before escaping safely. Even if all the other 1,200 top-level sages got killed, it would be worth it. That would actually be the best possible outcome, and she did try to instigate this scenario a few times now. She wasn't just throwing tantrums. She meant and planned for everything she did. But she missed up on one thing. She didn't know what her enemy had in his arsenal, nor how her allies were thinking. She didn't accept that Old Goo would swear allegiance from the very start, but she thought he was afraid for his people in the Flame Continent and didn't think about it too much. They were still 3 emperors against Robin and a broken Flame Empire. There is still a chance. But now it went down to 2 against 2. Forget about Robin Burton and his Crimson Demons. The Sacred Tree Empire and the Flame Empire have become real allies, working under the orders of the same person. Even without Robin's interference, there is still the danger of the Sacred Tree and Flame Empires. Finally, the silence at this moment was broken by Elizabeth. "Treason? You speak as if we have been allies since time immemorial. My dear, only 3 years ago my intelligence department told me of a network of spies on my land from the Water Empire whose main mission is to destabilize my lands and make the citizens hate me. How can I betray those who never considered me as an ally?" "I can explain," Victoria muttered in a low voice as she lowered her hand, trying to think of an excuse. There was no reason to deny something like this could be easily proven. She just didn't know that the network of spies there had been exposed. No need to explain, I have a network of spies in your land and in the land of the wind and the flame as well. Why do you think North Torrance rebellion happened 10 years ago? Elizabeth raised her seductive shoulders and giggled. Victoria did not know what to say. It is clear that he did not ask her to say a word either. Elizabeth's words were clear. They were not allies in the first place. If one of the four empires weakened, the rest would have attacked it, and this is an indisputable fact, and the apparent peace of all is only a state of temporary dormancy because all empires are almost equal to each other in strength. Even the central continent, the real reason for its existence, which only a few at the top know, is that their children get used to the techniques of the rest of the empires in the event of a war. It is a miniature war arena and not a place for getting to know each other, as they say. Haha, good. Come sit down, you are one of us now. Robin clapped and laughed loudly, then pointed to Elizabeth towards one of the chairs near him. Thank you, Your Excellency. Elizabeth nodded with a smile and sat where Robin pointed. Here are a few simple welcome gifts for you and your people, and more to come, Robin spoke, and with a wave of his hand a few items appeared in front of Elizabeth. A few metal plates, a scepter-type divine weapon, a space ring, a sound ring. These things are... Elizabeth muttered, still captivated by the scepter's beauty and unique aura, evidently far more powerful than her current weapon. The perfect major heavenly law of plant technique, the perfect major heavenly law of life, a few minor heavenly law techniques that are related to the planet path, and other small auxiliary techniques such as thoughts conveying technique, soul strengthening and soul replenishing technique, and so on. My adopted daughter Zara will teach you and introduce you to everything you need to know. Don't worry. Robin spoke with a big smile. Today was really very satisfying. Even if the other two leave, he will be happy. Ah, thank you. Elizabeth opened her eyes wide and gave a small shriek of happiness. Her beautiful figure and voice made everyone smile slightly, even the goblins. The sound of breaking one of the Water Empress Victoria's fingers echoed over the entire hill. She herself didn't know whether she had broken it because of her own disregard, or because of the welcome gifts that Robin had given Elizabeth so simply. Then she spoke in a voice filled with anger. Alexander, let's go. But she was met with silence for a few moments before she heard that same damnable phrase again. Heh, forget it, give me one of those tablets too. I swear to be completely loyal to His Excellency Robin Burton, and not to harm his interests. And Wind Emperor Alexander's voice reverberated up the hill like thunder in everyone's ears. Especially the sages of the Wind Empire that were scattered around the hill. They weren't quite sure what they felt. Just now, they had heard the Sacred Tree Empress Elizabeth take such a humiliating oath and began to treat the sages of the Sacred Tree Empire as enemies and traitors. They were looking at them up and down like trash. Now, in the blink of an eye, they are on their side again, but in the other camp. The atmosphere shifted several times from hostile to succumbing to shock. But not a single sage of Wind Empire could lie and say that they didn't feel much more at ease hearing their emperor's oath. A while ago, after the betrayal of the Sacred Tree Empress, the sages of the Wind and Water Empires were thinking of all possible scenarios of war or even escaping this hill. Some even began to question whether their empires could survive after this betrayal at all. And now, in the blink of an eye, only the Water Empire was left standing alone. The elders of the Water Empire looked around like crazy. A few minutes ago there was some kind of balance between them and Robin's forces, but now they were surrounded by enemies from every direction. The elders of the Sacred Tree and Wind Empires only raised their shoulders and extended their lower lips, some of them whistling as they looked towards the horizon. But the most shocked was none other than Victoria Frost, the Water Empress herself, mainly because she is the most aware that Alexander's self-esteem and pride are no less than hers. Nevertheless, she stood silent with her mouth open, looking at the person who is known to be more arrogant than her, as he swore allegiance to a person who did not reach half his age or strength, and that I deserve to die if I break any of these clauses. Alexander finished reciting the oath while he was sweating. Every word spoken now felt heavier than all the mountains in the world. Every letter he uttered came out with difficulty that exceeded every moment he spent cultivating in his entire life. Nevertheless, he completed it to the end. Then he raised his head again and spoke to Robin with his usual proud countenance. Is that good enough? Good. Robin banged on the table excitedly. grinning from ear to ear with the Wind Empire joining the equation. "Welcome to this side, hee-hee." Elizabeth laughed lightly as she rested her chin on her hand. "Yes." Alexander nodded, but he didn't know why. His head was still preoccupied with thinking about the heavy, humiliating words he had said. He is the absolute genius of the Wind Continent, someone who had reached the pinnacle of his strength before he completed his 4th century, and was chosen among the hundreds of sons of the previous emperor to learn the divine decree incarnation technique. Although he had never experienced it before, he had complete confidence that he could win a fight to the death against all the other emperors. Even among all the Wind Emperors in history, his star would still shine. But today, hold on, here is a small welcome gift. Robin waved his arm, and several objects appeared in front of Alexander. Alexander's eyes finally regained some light, but he ignored all the metal plates that appeared in front of him and the 2 strangely shaped rings, and focused his eyes on a gray bow. Robin smiled when he saw this and said, "This is a divine bow that has been made with materials closely related to the space heavenly law. Although the amount of those materials in the bow is almost negligible, it still gives properties of the space path to any arrow launched." Properties, space path? Alexander extended his hand and felt the bow slowly, as if stroking his beloved. The metal tablet directly in front of you contains one of the minor laws of space path up to the 3rd stage. By learning it sideways, you can increase the speed of the arrows, and you can even make them disappear. That one contains the perfect technique for the wind's major heavenly law up to the 3rd stage, and that there contains the minor heavenly law of condensation, which will make wind blades more lethal and easier to forge. And this one is, after about 2 more minutes, Robin finished introducing everything in front of Alexander, and added, "I will assign my adopted son Peon to teach you how to use these techniques. He is well versed in wind law too. I guess you can help each other, haha." Alexander was left shocked. From the very first tablet Robin introduced him to, he had almost forgotten his newfound passion for the gray bow, a technique for a minor heavenly law from the space path. Even if it was just a minor law, this was still the space heavenly path, an entity far superior to the wind heavenly path. Even the sages of the Wind Empire below started to glance at each other with each new technique that Robin introduced. This amount of treasures and techniques had not been produced by their whole empire for thousands of years, and they had received them all after saying a few words. "Victoria, what are you waiting for? Control your emotions. Being stubborn will not do you any good or your empire." Elizabeth spoke suddenly and slowly shook her head while looking at Victoria, but Victoria remained silent. She barely closed her mouth a little after realizing that Alexander had also sworn allegiance to the enemies and left her alone. Even till now, her shock had not faded yet. Her mind was working at full capacity that it started to heat up. Her only 2 allies already left her, but she still doesn't know whether to surrender like them or fight, bow her head or leave. So she just remained standing in her place without saying a word. Only with Elizabeth's words did she regain some of her consciousness. So she looked towards Elizabeth with anger, then looked away to express her discontent with the traitor Elizabeth. But in that direction in which she looked, she found an old sage from the Water Empire looking at her with a look that was all begging. Not only him, but wherever she looked, she found the sages of the Water Empire with looks that suggested that they were about to cry, as if they were begging her to do something to get them out of this mess. She could even see some rebellion in their eyes. She was not born yesterday. The features of those sages were clear. They were telling her to follow the example of Alexander and Elizabeth and declare her loyalty to Robin. And some of them even began to think of attacking her where she stands and declaring that she did not represent them. Victoria was not stupid. She knew very well what it meant to be abandoned by Elizabeth and Alexander. She knew that death would inevitably await her if she left this place without saying the oath. She tried everything she could to start a battle on the hill so that Robin would be killed and everything would end right there then. She was willing to risk her life to fight for her cause, but no one else wanted to risk his life with her. She bet big and she lost, and now she has to pay the price for being the last to take the oath on that useless metal tablet. Surely Robin would take her under his wing as he did with Elizabeth and Alexander. He spat those punch of lies to get her to join him in the first place. He just won't give her as many benefits as he gave Elizabeth and Alexander. Nevertheless, he won. She wasn't doing this from the start to gain some benefits anyway. Now she can just step back and do as her peers did. At least she can brag about being the last one standing. Pass me that tablet. Victoria gritted her teeth and held back her tears while saying these words. She felt that part of her dignity was broken with every word. No thanks, you may leave. Robin waved calmly. What did you just say? Victoria opened her eyes wide and looked at Robin in absolute shock. She gathered every ounce of strength and self-control, and she somehow managed to hold back her tears and trampled on her dignity until she asked for the metal tablet. This should have been enough for this Robin kid to jump with joy. She herself did not know if she could say the humiliating words of the oath after the tablet reached her. But Robin refused to give her the tablet in the first place. I said I don't want you, I don't want your loyalty. Take the sages of your empire and leave my property right now. And if I were you, I would start preparing your defenses. Robin confirmed his words and waved his hand again. Victoria's eyes began to widen until her eyelids almost disappeared. She felt her mind collapsing. The option of swearing allegiance to Robin was always on the table, but it was left as the last possible option if all else failed. But even that option was taken away from her. Victoria looked at the backs of the two people sitting in front of her, Alexander and Elizabeth, with a look that varied from disgust to envy. She now understood why they had shown so much respect to Robin from the very start. Alexander and Elizabeth also left declaring loyalty as the last option as well, but their approach was completely different. They understood that Robin did not need any of them, that there was no need to play the hard-to-get role. They understood that if their unity did not frighten Robin, their disrespect towards him would not scare him either. Your Excellency, please reconsider. Your Excellency, Niece Victoria is sometimes impulsive and doesn't know what she is saying. Yes, yes, Your Excellency. Please let us take the oath. We will be your best helpers. More than 300 shadows began to flock from all around the hill, with panic and intense fear on their faces. If Robin said that he did not want Victoria, in particular, to swear allegiance to him was one thing, but his words about preparing the defenses were something else entirely. He was talking openly about the invasion of the water continent. Now speaking of invasion was no longer just a threat. Even apart from Robin himself and the mighty demon army, the sacred tree, the wind, and the flame empires could easily finish the job for him. Forget it, she tried to kill my son. Robin waved and looked away. Your Excellency, please don't. One of the level 40 sages of the Water Empire tried to get closer to Robin, but Saker stood in front of him and blocked the way. Although Saker's bloody aura and smell and his overpowering presence confused that sage for a moment, but he quickly continued shouting from afar, Your Excellency, please do not associate the Water Empire with Victoria. She is only the empress of this generation and does not represent the ancient history of the empire. Yes, Grand Master Robin, we can change to another emperor immediately and make him take an oath. Yes, sir, please choose any one of us. Everyone here is from the royal family and we are all level 40. We just need to learn the divine decree incarnation technique and we will be as powerful as an emperor. Your Excellency, please give orders and we will kill her for you. Robin rubbed his chin slightly when he heard this. This is worth some thought. You all. Victoria did not comprehend what was happening around her. All of these were her uncles or grandfathers. Some of them were even her direct older brothers, but none of them uttered a word in her favor. None of them had spoken to her a word of advice or consultant since they climbed the hill. All their words were directed at Robin. All their words were about overthrowing or killing her. Did they not know that she was doing all this for them? She wanted every head in the water continent to be held up high. She wanted to sacrifice herself here and kill Robin to give her subject a better, free future. She decided that even if she had to obey Robin, she would have to be the last, sacrificing a lot of benefits and knowing that she would never be close to Robin like the rest. Why? So that the people of the water continent may live with their heads held high and have the excuse that others sold them first. But now, these sages talked a lot before they arrived on the ancestral continent about what she was supposed to do and that their empress should stand firm and never kneel, but now they choose her as a scapegoat. But she paused after she shouted you and looked down at the ground below. She made up her mind and there is no benefit in regret now. If her death is the price for the empire's survival, then so be it. Your Excellency, Victoria has always been like this. She acts first and then thinks about what happened. Her actions and sayings today against your excellency and your honorable adopted son were nothing personal but rather her natural character. Please reconsider your decision and pardon her and the Water Empire. Elizabeth lowered her head slightly and spoke in her usual sweet voice. Elizabeth. Victoria raised her head slightly and looked at Elizabeth's back with tearful eyes, not believing that the first person to defend her would be her rival, the one she spent most of her time and energy dealing with for centuries. Alexander also let out a long sigh and spoke. I endorse this, Your Excellency. A sage from the Water Empire could indeed increase his strength quickly if he obtained the Divine Decree Incarnation technique. But he wouldn't have Victoria's talent in using that technique, nor would he have her youthful age. And if you want someone to cross the sagehood barrier quickly, you need Victoria. Victoria also looked at Alexander's back for a few seconds and then looked at the ground again. She didn't know how to feel about what was happening, but she knew she had no right to say a single word now. This is humiliating, to say the least. How did the situation turn around so quickly? An hour ago, the three of them were ready to fight to the end, and now two of them have submitted and are interceding for the third to submit like them. She planned for the water continent to be the most prideful and look down at the flame and sacred tree even in submission, to tell Robin that they will not break easily even in submission and that he should respect them the most. But the exact opposite happened? Thinking of this, she raised her face and looked at the person who did all this, towards Robin. And not only she, but every eye on the hill was gazing towards Robin to say his word that would determine the fate of the water continent. Robin tapped his finger on the table in front of him as he looked down at Victoria with a cold look that sent chills down her spine, as if he was wondering if killing her or sparing her would be more beneficial. Then Robin looked beside him and spoke. Caesar, what do you think? Caesar kept his eye on Victoria for a few seconds as if he felt Robin was going to ask him this, then spoke softly. I have no personal problem with her. She was defending her position and I defending ours. Do whatever you want with her. It's true, but she still tried to kill you. My adopted son and one of my senior generals. You know your life is more precious to me than everyone on the hill put together. I can't just ignore that. What do I do with her? What do I do with her? Robin nodded twice when Caesar heard, then went back to click his chair again. Found it. The hearts of the elders of the Water Empire were beating like war drums with every word that came out of Robin's mouth. As for the concerned himself, he looked into Victoria's eyes with a smile. As you know, I don't need to accept you now. Taking your lands and raising a new generation from scratch would be better for me than dealing with such arrogance every time. But I will accept the declaration of allegiance from the Water Empire on one condition. Your oath will be different from that of the rest of the empires. Your ruler Victoria must add a new clause in the oath. She will have to take Caesar's opinion on anything she does start from today. If he says prepare for war, she will prepare me the biggest army. If he tells her to commit suicide, she will happily cut her throat. If he told her not take a shit, she will hold it in. Is this acceptable, everyone? Silence. Absolute silence. Everyone just looked at each other, some in astonishment, some in stupefaction, and others gloating with hatred. Even Caesar moved his eyes between Robin and Victoria like crazy when he heard this. Does he have to become the guardian of the Empress of the Water Empire? Your Excellency, doesn't this mean that our new emperor will be Mr. Caesar? One of the old men from the Water Empire bent his back and spoke with a feigned smile. Don't you see that this is a bit unjust? I mean, even the Flame Empire currently has an emperor to manage its territory without consulting anyone. We know that Victoria was wrong, but not to that extent, right? Can't we just change our ruler and get treated like other empires? Father, I don't think this is... Even Caesar took 2 steps and tried to say something to distance himself from this situation, but was interrupted by Robin's voice addressing the old man. Who the hell are you? Is it up to you to say to what extent is she wrong? My problem with Flame Empire was not personal, but she tried to kill my adopted son knowing that he was close to me, while you lot stood to watch. I will not justify anymore. There is no room for arrogance in my new world. This is my judgment and I will not go back on it. Accept it as it is, or please leave. Robin shook his head. That old sage from the Water Empire wanted to say something, but not a word came out of his mouth. Even Victoria's eyes began to shine slightly with a thin film of tears as she looked at Robin's cold face. This is the first time in her life that she has faced this kind of rejection and indifference. Either she or her sages are well aware that they had nothing to back them in the situation. The Empire of Wind, the Empire of the Sacred Tree, and the Empire of Flame have declared their eternal loyalty to Robin. If they left now, they would be outcasts in a world ruled by enemies. Robin is serious in his words because he really does not need them to declare their loyalty anymore. They may enjoy peace for a day, for a year, but their inevitable downfall, which will bring the annihilation of the ruling family of the Water Empire, will inevitably come. That old sage from the Water Empire looked at Victoria angrily and muttered one word in a low voice, "Agree." Victoria moved her bright eyes at last from Robin and towards that old sage in shock, then looked around to see the expressions on the faces of the rest of the sages, whether they agree to this or not, whether they wanted to fall into this abject humiliation or fight to the end. But she found lowered heads and angry, spiteful features, all nodding towards her to accept as well. But it was clear that they all seemed as if they wanted to devour her alive. Victoria was 100% sure that if Robin had told them to kill her, they wouldn't have hesitated for a moment. Exhale. Inhale. It's okay. It's just a few words that I don't really mean. Just words. Victoria calmed herself. Just words said to appease Robin's vanity now and then forget them. Without another word, she looked at Robin again and slowly raised her hand as if asking for something. Robin waved and one of the metal plates flew toward Victoria in return. Gulp. I swear to be full loyalty to His Excellency, Robin Burton, and not to harm. His interests in Victoria picked up the metal plate, passed her spiritual sense into it as her predecessors did without understanding the reason. Then she began to say the hardest words she had to say in her life, and to take my orders, and ask for permissions from Caesar Burton in everything I do, and if I break the oath, then I deserve death. Before she could even pull her spiritual sense out of the tablet and throw it back towards Robin, Victoria suddenly felt a part of her soul being drawn into the tablet. What the? Hee. Welcome on board, that was very close. You should hold yourself back and act more rationally in the future. Elizabeth quickly stood up and went to hug Victoria, but in the meantime, she grabbed the metal tablet from Victoria's hand and threw it quickly toward Robin. Robin smiled when he saw this. He knew that Elizabeth was trying to protect Victoria. Now that she knew there was something tying her soul and that she might actually die if she broke the oath, she might destroy the board and choose to fight, so she took the tablet from her hands quickly before she took that decision. But he did not put the tablet away or hide it in his ring, as Elizabeth would have liked, but picked it up and put it before him completely exposed on the table, and then spoke. It seems that today is going to end without spoiling a drop of blood. It's much better than I imagined. Please come and sit down. Come, let's sit for now and leave the thinking for later. We are in a new era now, just accept it and move on. Elizabeth whispered absent-mindedly in Victoria's ear and began to pull her hand toward the chair next to her. Even with all the old differences between them, and even though Victoria almost attacked her a while ago while she was reciting the oath, they are now on the same side whether they like it or not. Now they are really sisters in every sense of the word. The time for smiling in the face and stabbing in the back is over. Victoria nodded slowly, still completely absent-minded, trying to think of how she was going to spend the rest of her life at someone else's behest, and almost took her first step without realizing it until she heard a shout. Hold your steps if you want to live. What do you want, Alexander? Forget the past and let her sit with us. She is one of us now. Elizabeth put both her hands at her sides and looked with feigned anger at Wind Emperor Alexander, who had just shouted. Was he trying to gain favor with Robin this bad? It's all right, I understand. Victoria patted Elizabeth on the shoulder and then looked at Caesar. May I sit with them? Yeah, you can, I guess. Caesar scratched his head and replied awkwardly. Thank you. Victoria nodded and then continued with Elizabeth towards her old chair amidst the astonishment of everyone. Even Elizabeth herself. The oath includes even asking for such a silly thing? Robin chuckled when he saw this and took out a few plates from his void ring as well. They fell in front of Victoria. Even though I was planning to leave the Water Empire without any benefits. I quickly found how silly this is. Now that you are my loyal subordinates, your remaining weak is my weakness too, so take these. This is the perfect technique for the major heavenly law of water. Now you have it up to the third stage, the foundation modification technique, and the minor condensation heavenly law technique that will enable you to transform water into its 3 states without much effort. I believe before you were using up most of your energy to convert water vapor into ice, right? Well, that's over now. And this is a technique for. Truth be told, even Victoria herself didn't think she would receive anything from Robin. She just opened her eyes wide as techniques were thrown in front of her one after another. Even the rest of the sages from Water Empire couldn't believe what was happening, especially when Robin mentioned the minor condensation heavenly law. This law alone, if used sideways, will multiply the strength of their army many times over. Robin laughed out loud seeing these reactions and declared, "Ha ha ha, all right, you should get used to this as we are all on the same side now. Amon, Jabba, hunt us some beasts and have a proper Nahari-style feast." Yes. Amon bowed and retreated, and the rest of the demon kings retreated with him. A feast of this size that needs all possible help. Oh, a feast from another world? That sounds fun. But Your Excellency, may I ask you something? Elizabeth spoke in her usual angelic voice. Today is a beautiful day. Ask whatever you want. Robin put his hand behind his head and replied with a smile. Today really made what comes next much easier for him. As far as I know, Your Excellency has no particular name to belong to other than the Burton family. I know the 4 of us have become your subordinates, but we are not emperors anymore and we are now part of the Burton family. Then what are we called now? What is the name of this new world? It was quiet for a few seconds and everyone looked intently at Robin, who in return looked up at the sky and started tapping his finger on the table slowly. Then spoke, "You are right, I think we need a name. Now we are more than just the Burtons, and you are no longer independent emperors. Oh, I got one. What do you think of the 6 Continents United Organization?" Elizabeth spoke quickly. Alexander shook his head. This world has always had 4 major heavenly laws that represent the 4 major elements in nature. And now, His Excellency has come and corrected them for us, so I suggest naming our union the 4 Elements Empire. Ahem, if you allow this old man. Today the whole world is united under one banner. Why do we need a name now? There is no outside party that will need to know our name to deal with us, so I think it is better to find a name for the world first and leave the name of this union aside. Old Goo spoke in a weak voice. Alexander and Elizabeth slowly nodded when they heard Old Goo's words and seemed to agree. Even Victoria, who was still sitting in her place embarrassed, seemed to agree with him as well. Names exist to differentiate between different people and powers. If there is only one person or power, there is simply no need for him to have a name anymore. There is no other person who will call him by it or talk about it. Finding a name for the world is much more appropriate now knowing that there are other worlds out there. But they were surprised by Robin shaking his head. This is not true. I do not plan to stop on this planet. I was just telling you about the possibility of invading our planet. Remember? Well, I forgot to inform you that we might also conquer other planets. We are invading other planets. Victoria finally spoke in her shock and looked at the other 3 former emperors. Even conquering another continent was something that was so far-fetched and difficult, something that they had to first plan for and weaken the other continent internally for thousands of years before they even thought of seeking the next step and actually conquering that continent. But now they are barely united and Robin is already talking of conquering other worlds. That's other worlds completely different from theirs. Before the meeting today, they did not even know that other worlds existed. Yeah, why not? Conquering other planets means getting to know different civilizations, finding more natural resources, recruiting alien races into our army, and even finding an opportunity to explore other laws and technologies. Any way you look at it, you will find it a good opportunity. Robin tilted himself towards the table slightly and spoke excitedly. Actually, I was waiting until we finished the banquet to talk to you about it, but now is not a bad time either. I have the coordinates of a new planet near us. All I know about that planet is that its size is similar to our planet, the history of martial arts has about 200,000 years, and the highest cultivation level there is still at the sage level. As you can see, its condition is not much different from our planet, and there is nothing much to fear. I intend to conquer it 3 years from today. Invading a planet in 3 years. This. Elizabeth's eyes narrowed slightly after hearing those words, and her heart began to beat violently. Not only she, but Old Goo, Alexander, and Victoria couldn't completely control their emotions when they heard Robin. Not only Elizabeth, but Old Goo, Alexander, and Victoria couldn't completely control their emotions when they heard Robin's crazy words. Isn't that too close? Alexander asked quickly, forgetting to even put on the cover of pride he used to speak with each time. Secondly, didn't you tell us that you wouldn't command us to do anything but defend this planet? TSK, don't mention this to me again, Alexander. I did say I wouldn't because I can't have anything to find you of help with, but that doesn't mean I can't command you with anything. Nothing of the sort is mentioned in your oath, and I can give you any order I want. And relax, this is not an order anyway but an offer. Robin rested his back on the chair. I will take the Burton family's forces to conquer that planet in 3 years. If any of you wants to come to benefit from this new experience and gather resources, and also strengthen relations with the rest of the forces of this newfound entity, then he is welcome to come, and does not want to leave this planet and want to lead a little peaceful life, I will not force him. I'm coming, Elizabeth quickly shouted. This old man is ready right now if you ordered. Old Goo nodded. Whether he managed to actually prepare for such a huge project or not, he had decided that he would hand over the entire future of the Empire to Robin. Hey, I and my men are also coming, the Wind Emperor announced after giving a short sigh. As for Victoria, she looked at Caesar, who in turn shrugged his shoulders and said, do as you will. When Victoria turned back to look at Robin, we are coming too. Haha, excellent, excellent. 3 years from today we will gather in Central Continent. That period will be enough to use the foundation modification technique to modify the energy foundations of most of your soldiers to use the perfect version of the law. Bring all your men who are at the knighthood realm or above, and bring any weapon and any resource that can be used for war or trade. It will be an epic that will be remembered in history, so do not skimp on anything. Robin clapped and announced, perfect. But this brings us back to the question about the name of this entity. Elizabeth spoke excitedly, then suddenly calmed down. Robin let out a long snort, then looked up at the sky with a slight smile. When I started my path, I never imagined that I would be sitting here as a world emperor one day. I only wanted to do something good for mankind that would eternalize my name in history. That's all. My only wish back then was that I didn't want to die like everyone else. After that, my eyes were open to the truth. I managed to take firm steps in the path that I chose for myself and decided to change people's lives for the better. But strange circumstances followed me since day one, awful things that I never thought I would have to face. I faced a lot of physical and psychological torment because I wanted to change the world for the better. My dream of immortalizing my name in history turned to pursue strength, enough strength to protect my life until I achieved my dream. But even that wasn't enough. No matter how strong I got, I always found a stronger few awaiting. Everyone wanted what I created for themselves without a partner, and everyone wanted to bask in my creations without restraint. After all I had done, I was still under threat to be completely erased from this life and from people's memories. I reached a point when I wanted to live an ordinary life, but even that I could not find. My path came to a full stop for a while with the murder of my wife, the torture of my son, and the backstabbing from those who were once close to me. But I guess this made my eyes open again to a new truth. Old Goo lowered his head when he heard this. He knew for sure that the Flame Empire had played quite a role in what Robin said. At that moment, Robin turned his eyes away from the sky and began to look into the eyes of those sitting around him. My experience has taught me that changing something must start from the roots, and that if I want to build, I first have to destroy. I have decided. My first step towards implementing my vision will be to have my own empire, and this empire will be the true beginning of wherever I touch. The true beginning empire. The true beginning empire? That is actually a better name than the one I thought of. Alexander nodded several times. It is true. A good name, and its meaning is also clear. It has my full support. Elizabeth gave a charming smile and spoke. Even Victoria nodded. Not bad. The first time you choose a good name, or I should say it's the first time you cared about such things. Billy agreed in his own way as well. You have made a good choice, Your Excellency. You have started the true beginning on this planet all by yourself. May this meeting be the true beginning of thousands of worlds to come. Old Gu stood up and spoke slowly, then added, if you don't mind, this old man has a nomination regarding the name of the world we live in. After all, as long as there are other worlds, our world must have a name. Oh? And what is that name? Robin smiled and asked. Old Gu stiffened his back and spoke with all the respect he could muster. Jura. This world should be named Jura and nothing else. Jura. Yeah, let's name it Jura. Robin rested his back fully on the chair and muttered in a low voice. It seemed as if all the energy was suddenly sucked out of his body. Even his countenance changed slightly. A good name. A good name. Billy spoke with difficulty, trying to maintain his normal tone. But tears were slowly falling from the side of his eyes anyways. After Robin's orders the day he revisited Nahari, Jura was surrounded by high walls and became a heavily guarded zone by the forces of the Burton family. The entire city was sealed off and no one was allowed to enter or leave. It was doomed to turn into a forgotten cemetery, a place looked upon from afar with respect and longing. But now that Robin's approval, it seems that Jura's name and tale are destined to live on for a very long time. After agreeing to the world's name, everyone spent about an hour deliberating on what would happen during the coming period and how to benefit from all the things that Robin could offer. And during that hour they knew that those metal tablets and what was in them were just the outer shell of a much deeper entity. Especially after seeing the energy stones and energy pearls that Robin brought with him from Nahari. Just the aura of one of those energy pearls knocked out every ounce of pride from their hearts. Even Elizabeth blamed Robin that he should have shown those pearls from the beginning, and maybe the conversations would have resumed easier. Then there is also the issue of who can benefit from what is inside those metal tablets and those mythical energy stones. Just a few hours ago they only had their 4 major heavenly laws and they kept them as a monopoly of the imperial family alone. No servant family can dream of having a glimpse of them. Other than that, they had the divine decree incarnation technique was the monopoly of the ruling emperor. But now everything changed. Their new emperor, Robin, already has a technique that is quite similar to the divine decree incarnation technique, and he gave them much more cultivation techniques to worry about. What will they do with all of that? In the end, it was decided that they would spread the 4 major heavenly laws perfect techniques to all the people on their continents, whether they were royal families or servant families. Not only that, when the subject opened, Robin brought out metal tablets of hundreds of minor heavenly laws ready to be all the way to the 3rd stage, and made it clear that they have to spread the soul cultivation techniques and energy cultivation techniques with them as well. And Robin concluded his speech on this topic by saying, everyone should learn martial arts now. Our world should not be left in the hands of a handful of experts while the rest are like sheep waiting to be slaughtered. We are not alone in this universe. Look at Nahari planet, for example. They are living their lives happily now and not realizing that they are a few steps away from an invasion that will eat everything green and dry. What if there is a planet lurking around us while we are talking now? If this planet was invaded one day, every elder and every child must fight to the end, and I mean everyone. Farmers must learn martial arts at night and then return to plowing their lands in the morning. What is wrong with that? It's better to be a warrior on a farm than a farmer at war. Only higher-level techniques such as the foundation modification technique, the major heavenly law technique of life, the energy stones and energy pearls from planet Nahari, and other extras of that level were decided to be reserved for the special forces of the United Imperial Army and those who reached Saint level, as well as a reward for those who did heroic deeds. Some sages from the 4 empires objected to spreading the techniques of the major laws in this way and that it would cause chaos, but Robin told them that this world now all belonged to him. There was no longer any fear that someone would take the techniques and escape or leak them to an enemy, and no one can form a more powerful parallel entity than the true beginning empire inside Jura planet as long as Robin is alive and continually supplying more of his innovations to the empire. There is simply no longer a danger of internal wars. He even allowed the younger generation in their lands to use any law technique they wanted. If a young man was born in Flame Empire and wanted to use the Master Wind Law, now he can. When Robin said this proverb, Old Gu and Alexander felt strange, but they nodded without saying a word more. What Robin said is correct. Whether or not the techniques leak is no longer a problem worth thinking about. It was also decided to send most of the Flame Special Legion, led by one of Robin's uncles, David Burton, with Old Gu to train the Flame Continent forces on how to use the new laws and weapons and to speed up their completion of the use of the Foundation modification. With the same idea, Peon and most of the Wind Special Legion will move to the Wind Continent, and Zara will move with most of the Life Special Legion to the Sacred Tree Continent. But the strange thing about these transfers is that Caesar had to go to the Water Continent. Robin said that although Caesar knew nothing of the water law, he could teach them about everything else, and he had to go anyway or Victoria might die unintentionally. Caesar objected for a few moments, saying that he wanted to stay with Robin, but he was quickly rejected and surrendered to his fate. He looked at both Victoria and his father with some anger. That woman took an oath to save her family, and that is understandable, but why does this have to affect him? Not much time passed before Amon, Jabba, and the rest of the Demon Kings finished preparing a huge banquet made up of all the unlucky beasts in the region, and a small celebration began shyly for what could be called the largest event in the history of this planet. The celebration banquet wasn't taken too seriously, though even during eating, Robin and the four emperors, who are now known as the four continental rulers, did not stop talking even for a moment, figuring out the roadmap for the incoming 3 years. For example, the most important thing they talked about during the banquet was sending 100 rune masters and divine weapons blacksmiths to each of their continents. Robin told them that those 100 would set up space gates in the capital of each continent to facilitate movement between the 6 continents in the future. The cost of building a single portal is an enormous project that requires a lot of resources, but this was for him as someone from the Burton family of the Black Sun Kingdom. Finding those resources now with the entire planet under his hand became very easy. With the second stage of the major heavenly law of space, Robin had no problems discovering the exact coordinates of every spot on the planet he stands on. He found the central continent and the flame continent using this method in the first place, so the matter of building the space portal body and finding the coordinates between them was very easy to solve. As for the cost of using portals in the same world, it wouldn't be a thing. If he need a few million energy stones to go to another faraway planet, then a few energy stones would suffice to move around in the same world. Even children and small merchants could use them freely. When Robin presented his idea of a new system of space portal that would connect the world together, a state of enthusiasm and aspiration for the future filled everyone's hearts. This will be true unity in everything. Whether it's culture, resources, experiences, and goods, it will slowly be the same anywhere you go on the planet. Just the free trading opportunities between all those continents sent chills down their spines. Even Robin offered the rulers of the 4 continents to pay for those resources that would be used in the space portals, but they flatly refused, saying that they are the ones that would benefit from them the most. Every minute they spent with Robin after Victoria recited the oath, they felt like a new door was opening. Every technique he offered them and every word he said about the future possibilities awaiting them shocked them to the core. Less than 2 hours have passed since they declared their allegiance to him by force, for fear that he would destroy their lands and kill their families, but now they are beginning to feel that this is really not too bad. And not only the emperors, but even the sages who came with them were listening to every word Reuben said, every technique he explained, and every item that showed its benefits. Towards the end of the banquet, an old sage even took the initiative to recite an oath more severe than the one which was taken by his emperor. Then, one by one, all the remaining sages took the same oath of that old sage with the same satisfaction and without Robin even asking it. He was preoccupied with the major affairs with Alexander and the rest, and he forgot to ask for the oath from their followers as well, but to everyone's shock, they were the ones who moved and said it themselves. They all accepted the new situation. Whether they accept him as a leader or not, whether their standing is better before or now, their subordination to Robin has become a done deal, so why not take the oath in a way that wins his approval and makes him satisfied with them? The banquet and its additions lasted for about 3 hours, until the 400 rune masters and the divine weapons blacksmiths, who were requested by Robin, arrived on the backs of the Draco. Robin then asked them to build the space portal and gave them the coordinates of each of the other continents, and he even asked them to build academies to teach rune drawing and divine weapons creating on every continent and teaching as many talented youngsters as possible, which increased the joy of the 4 rulers even more. By then all that could be said was said. All the continental rulers said their farewells and returned to their ship with their sages and the rest of the escorts that Robin had sent with them. Everyone had looks full of optimism and aspiration for the future. Except for 2. Victoria, who is still absent-minded, trying to think of a way to get herself out of the awkward situation she has put herself in, and Caesar, who was standing next to her, still looking at his father as if he wants to cry, still asking himself what does he have to do with all this. "Ha! Take care of yourself." This was Robin's only response to Caesar's angry looks as he disappeared over the horizon. After about 10 minutes, "Master, what do you want us to do now?" Jabba came from behind Robin, who was still looking towards the horizon, and said, "There is no danger left for us on planet Jura. Our forces have increased and there is nothing left for us to do except move forward. But, Sai, I guess we should all advance together without leaving anyone behind." Robin sighed and replied, "You mean?" Jabba furrowed his eyebrows slightly. A huge amount of what appeared to be pieces of yellow-colored animal skins appeared beside Robin. Then he spoke, "Use the Draco beasts now and place a talisman of these in every inhabited place in the ancestral continent, every village and every city, any area where more than 100 human must have on of these." Jabba took 2 steps and grabbed one of the talismans. He didn't need to see it before to know that those runes and this skin had something to do with the minor heavenly law of sound. Then he looked again at Robin and nodded. "That would be a good idea. In a few hours everything will be arranged." Then he looked behind him and began to call Ammonius, Theo, and the rest of the senior officers and the king of the goblins, and distribute the new task to them. Within a few minutes, dozens of Draco-winged beasts started flying in all directions, leaving Robin still looking at the horizon with a focused eye, but with intermittent breaths. After another 3 hours, Jabba took out his spiritual sense from his vocal ring and spoke, "Master, all the talismans have been distributed and all villages and cities are ready. Do what you have to do." Da boom. Deep inhale. Who, after a long exhale, Robin suddenly opened his eyes, inserted his soul sense into the talisman he was holding in his hand, and began to speak in a hearable voice. "People of the ancestral continent, I am Robin Burton speaking to you from Northern Green Hill to tell you that I am not sorry for what I have done to you." What was that voice? Did you hear it too? I thought I was delirious. No, that is definitely a real voice. Does he say he's Robin Burton? The Robin Burton we know. Yes, only that criminal can make his voice be heard while we are in the south of the continent while he is on the Northern Green Hill. Am I wrong, or did he say he is not sorry for everything he did to us? Damn him. Damn him. I lost my family because of his personal revenge. Go to hell, you Burton bastard. Conversations like this suddenly broke out all over the continent after Robin's voice echoed. Some were talking among themselves and some just looked at the sky and started shouting. Not one person kept quiet after hearing Robin's words, whether they were surprised at wondering how they heard it or his comment about his lack of regret, or even pure insults and curses. On top of the Northern Green Hill. I think you should change your tone a little bit. Jabba was horrified when he heard the last sentence said by Robin. All of Robin's followers on the hill, or who are still flying above the Draco, were stunned by his words as well. Did he distribute all those talismans to provoke the ancestral continent residents even farther and increase the hatred against him? So, Herelt. But Robin didn't seem to hear anything, as he continued while holding the talisman. Although I can't hear you, I can imagine your reactions. You must be angry right now. You must be cursing me in the streets. But I understand. After all, I'm the man who ruined your lives, and I may have caused the death of your relatives. How can you forgive me? You must want to rip my flesh from my bones now. You must want to turn my skin into a bag to pee in. Tell me, would you have accepted my apology? Would whatever I said now change your opinion about me? Would it have changed your desire to kill me if you had the strength to do it? I will kill you, son of a Burton. Whatever you say today, the day of your death is inevitably coming. We will not accept any apology or compensation. You are dead. The state of the streets all over the continent turned from surprise and questioning to complete rage after hearing Robin's confession. Even those who were still sitting in their homes came out and started cursing and shouting at Robin as well. But the funny thing is that after every insult or death threat, everyone would look around to see if the demons were coming. Again, I can't hear your voices, but let me guess, you all refused, right? You all want to kill me no matter how much I apologize and how much I try to make amends, right? Good. Robin inserted his spiritual sense into the talisman again and said, then paused for 2 seconds and continued, "This was also how I felt when I found Jura City destroyed." The Burton family had some fame before this happened. I think most of you have heard of us at least once before the conquest of Jura City. I, Robin Burton, have produced many useful techniques, talismans, and other applications such as sound rings, and I facilitated the creation of high-quality armaments which have benefited you all in every way in your daily life, made things like mines digging much easier, and decreased the number of workers' death in every land I controlled. I am Robin Burton, who declared war on Dolliver and seized a large piece of land by force, but still took its inhabitants from poverty to wealth and distributed cultivation techniques and law techniques among them. I am Robin Burton, who spent my money to eliminate the phenomenon of hunger in all lands belonging to the Duchy of Burton. I am Robin Burton, who was seeking to change this world. But one day I returned from a faraway place and found the city of Jura in which I was raised became ruins. I found my family killed, imprisoned, and chased. I knew that my wife had been killed and my son had been tortured for 10 years. And who did all this? The armies of the 8 kingdoms. The children of my continent, whom I used to work day and night to serve them. I had my own troops and used them to take my revenge. I declared war on the 8 kingdoms and I won. After I won, I applied the well-known punishment of killing the losers' experts. But I didn't take your weak ones as slaves as I should have and left you all free. That's all that happened. And if one of you had the strength now, he would come to kill me. The demons and the entire Burton family. Whoever has such strength would not leave even my distant relatives a chance to live. Isn't that right? That's why I'm not sorry. I just acted with my human nature. I'm not an angel to pardon the kingdoms that destroyed my family. Nor am I stupid to let their experts try to take revenge on me, while I'm at a possible war against the 4 empires on this planet and mightier enemies abroad. I did what I had to do. Let me get this straight, even if I could go back in time, I will still do it again. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to gain your sympathy or tell you to magically love me. I just want you to understand and put yourselves in my shoes. Hate me but understand my situation. At least you will be sure of the reason you hate me for. Master. Jabba didn't take his eyes off Robin's back for a moment. He could feel his breathing turbulent and his heart racing at every word. He didn't know if it was anger or anxiety. But he knew one thing. Everything Robin said was coming out of the depths of his heart. A young man sitting on top of one of the buildings clenched his fist so much that it started to make cracking sounds. But he didn't say a word. Yeah. The gang that killed his family is dead now. How? He went and cultivated until he got stronger and then got back to his hometown and killed them all. There was no need to ask apology, nor did he have mercy on one of them. He just started a random massacre until none of them left breathing. So he definitely understands what Robin is saying. The problem is that Robin was the biggest factor in the killing of his family, as he was the one that started all this mess. But it was also he who saved his life when he has already started looking for someone to bury him alive. The boy, Piers, raised both his hands and put them around his head, no longer knowing how to view the man who had saved him against his will in that little tavern. A cold-hearted devil? Or a man that did what he has to do? People of the ancestral continent, I, Robin Burton, will not apologize for taking my revenge. Whether you think it's too much or not, it's done. I do not regret destroying your government or killing your family members, but I do regret leaving you halfway without giving you an alternative. I thought that I was making you a favor by not subjecting you to slavery and letting you do whatever you want. But the chaos that came after that had damaged you more than my revenge did. It is not too late to fix that mistake of mine. Whoever. Robin raised his head and continued his speech with a confident voice. Starting today, Billy Burton will begin his ministry as ruler of the ancestral continent. He will divide the ancestral continent into provinces, each will be ruled by one of the Burton family's sons. He will supervise the reopening of factories and the plowing of agricultural lands again. Within 1 year from now, you will have your new full-time government. You will no longer be under some Orange Sun Kingdom or the Rotten Water Kingdom. You will all be under the same rule of the true beginning empire. Just like the people of the Flame Continent and the people of the Sacred Tree, Wind, and Water continents. There will be no more wars, no more suffering, just eternal peace under one empire that rules the entire world. Billy opened his eyes at the last of them and looked at the few saints from the Burton family around him, and asked in a low voice, "I'm going to do all that." Everyone, listen to my words carefully. Do not think that you will be inferior subjects, second-class citizens, or slaves. In every area where the law is restored, I will spread all the cultivation techniques and law techniques for free up to the second stage. I will normalize the usage of talismans and divine weapons. Whoever wants one will have one. I will spread the cultivation academies and research centers and build you more advanced factories. I will make you all my citizens equal without distinction of noble or commoner. That kind of discrimination is over. I will provide you with what your ancestors could not provide. An opportunity to choose your own future. Everyone in my world will have the same opportunities from birth. What you will become in the future will only depend on your choices. But I will also compel everyone who wants the third stage of any law to swear allegiance to me. Sorry to ruin your fantasies, but I will not raise dogs to bite me in the ass at the first chance. People of the ancestral continent, help the Burton family to restore the law and exterminate the bandits as soon as possible. Do not stand in the way of the development of your continent and do not stand in the way of the future of your children. Leave what you feel about me aside and choose your future. He who helps us to spread the law in the ancestral continent again will only help himself. And he who is blinded by hatred and wants to go against me no matter what, it's okay, I understand your hatred, but do not blame my forces for killing you. I will not go to ask for forgiveness for this and that. I have said what I have and made my judgment. No more words need to be said. Do what you have to do. At that moment, Robin withdrew his soul sense from the talisman in his hand and let out a long sigh. Then he stood and looked behind him at Billy. I have made myself clear to them and cleared my conscience by these arraignments. The rest I will leave to you. I do not know what their reaction is now or to what extent my words have affected them. They might be raging even more now. Who knows? Just be careful in your dealings with them. Move the demon army as you wish, but you must restore order on the continent, and physical and food security must be restored as soon as possible. Use Theo and the Dark Legion as well. They will be your strongest weapon at this stage. But remember that you must surrender the entire demon army to me 3 years from now, after which you must rely on the troops from the Burton family or the police you hire from the ancestral continent. Are we clear? Yes. This is the best order you have given me since I knew you, haha. Billy shouted with a burst of loud laughter. Regret was eating his heart for the state of the continent had reached. Holding the reins of affairs in it and trying his best to restore it to be better than before might ease his conscience somewhat. He would also finally be able to get rid of those demons that were colonizing the continent like locusts. They are a really good weapon in Robin's hands and loyal followers and all, but they are not the kind of people you can live with on friendly terms. Those damn demons make excuses to hunt down civilians and eat them, so getting rid of them in 3 years would be like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Theo, no empire uses darkness or anything close to it. You are still one of a kind, my little friend, and I will keep you that way. The law of darkness will remain at your sole disposal. After you have finished helping Billy, I want you to open an academy to teach darkness to whoever wants to, but they should be loyal to me first and to you second, and none to third, understood? Yes. Theo will make you an army of darkness. Theo bent slightly and spoke, his tongue no longer as slurred as before. Robin smiled and then looked at Jabba. We have about 3,500 rune masters and divine weapon blacksmiths left from those who came with us from Nahari to build the ships, right? Yes, there are also quite a few of those who were held captives at the Flame Empire. Jabba nodded with furrowed eyebrows, trying to anticipate what would be asked of him. Robin nodded. Good. I want 2 huge space portals. Choose a good, comfortable and spacious spot to set up the first portal and pave broad avenues to and from it, and divide wide yards and storehouses around it so as to receive the incoming armies and future merchants. As for the second gate, it must be out of sight, but it must be in a wide place as well. I believe the inner region of any major forest in the central continent would do the trick. Jabba's frown increased. The first portal's use and reason are clear, but that second one, after they finish, they should build this pyramid. Robin took out a metal plate from his ring and handed it to Jabba. This is a blueprint of how it will be built and the runes that will be on it. It is an edifice that is several times larger than the pyramid in the city of Jura. Whoever among the people of the ancestral continent wants to reach sagehood will have to swear an oath on that pyramid. It would be better to build it in the Imperial City. Which Imperial City? Jabba was surprised and asked. What? I wouldn't be an emperor without an imperial city, right? Haha. Robin approached Jabba and patted him on the elbow, then took out another sheet of metal. This blueprint contains runes for defensive arrays that fit an entire city. Choose a good spot in the central continent and then have the rune masters lay the foundations. Then hire a few thousand masons to finish the rest. This should be done as soon as possible, too. It seems to me that you hate your rune masters and divine weaponsmiths a lot. Jabba chuckled and gently shook his head. That was really too much for them. Haha. Just tell them that I will reward them properly later. Robin laughed and walked beside Jabba. Where are you going? Jabba looked behind him at Robin's back, which was shrinking with every step he took, and shouted. With a slight smile, Robin replied, I'll go for a walk until you are done. After 2 days of sailing, Caesar sent a request to Jabba to send him a number of Draco beasts, so that he could reach the water continent faster, because he wanted to speed up the implementation of his father's orders according to him. Jabba knew that Caesar wanted to escape from the narrow space of the ship and the suffocating atmosphere that was imposed on him, but he had no choice but to listen to this simple request of Robin's adopted son and send the Dracos in his direction. If they can reach their destination faster, why not the rest? Jabba liked the idea and sent some Dracos towards Elizabeth, Alexander, and Gu as well. The decision to ride these beasts was not easy for any of the previous emperors and their collaborators, but eventually they decided to do it and accept Jabba's gift. In the end, saving a few months before preparing to invade the next planet will be in their favor. That is why the 4 emperors and their closest aides were able to reach their continents during the same week of the declaration. Caesar's selfish request turned into a great help for everyone. The week after the Great Green Hill Declaration. This is what the event was known for, the event that changed everything on planet Jura. More than 1 billion humans living on the surface of the planet did not know what was happening on top of that small hill near that unknown shore in the forgotten ancestral continent. They did not know the threats, enticements, hardships, and psychological pressure that all parties went through to reach this final picture. But when the details of the most controversial declaration in history were published and everyone knew that it was a done deal, reactions varied greatly. In the continents of wind, water, and the sacred tree. When Victoria, Alexander, and Elizabeth returned to their continents and announced the New World Order, it led to massive anger in their continents, and thus great turmoil and immense protests occurred that were unprecedented during the past few thousand years. The existence of Robin and his demon army was known before the Great Green Hill Declaration thanks to the youngsters who returned from the central continent and spoke of what happened there. Everyone knew that there was a guy named Robin who had a large army of Crimson Things and wanted revenge on the Flame Empire for some reason. But they were also furious and demanded the saints and sages close to them pressure their emperor to hunt down and kill that Robin guy and destroy his army. For how could someone like him be allowed to touch their children and keep them imprisoned for months? How could someone like him tell them not to return to Central Continent again? Who does he think he is? And suddenly the guy they used to insult him day and night, despise him and urge the powerhouses to hunt him down, has become their new emperor? Just like that. Their leaders told them that this Robin subdued the entire planet and that it was not only their empire that surrendered. But who would believe that? How can a person subjugate the entire planet without a fierce world war? There wasn't even a bar fight. And how can they be sure of this in the first place, when traveling to the central continent has been prohibited for months? It is clear that they lie to try to contain their anger. Weren't they always telling that they are the chosen elite and the bloodline of emperors? And that those who live in the ancestral continent are all rabble that is useless in everything other than farming the lands and catching fish? Now it has been announced that they have become affiliated with someone from the ancestral continent. Unacceptable. The protests that struck the 3 empires were aimed at empowering the opposition parties to seize power from the current emperor and nullify that humiliating decision. Of course, in a ruling family, there are always a few opposing individuals who want to seize power. This will be their chance. As all the people are with them, they were begging them to take over. But they were surprised that all the high-level sages agreed with the Great Green Hill Declaration and all the level 40 sages who head the various opposing parties, the ones that will become emperors immediately if they listen to the people, all strongly supported the Great Green Hill Declaration as if their lives depended on it. Well, their lives literally depended on it. Not everyone knew that yet, though. When the people finally found that there was no hope of changing the situation, the protests subsided, and they no longer had anything to help them. They just lowered their heads, crying in the streets from the severity of the insult they felt. They were occupied without a drop of blood being spilled. Their cowardly so-called emperors surrendered without trying to stand up for themselves. How will they live their lives after this point? How will they ever raise their heads again? In the Flame Continent, when Old Gu returned with the Flame Legion and announced the details of the Great Green Hill Declaration and the establishment of the true beginning empire, he was welcomed like a hero, and celebrations took place everywhere in the streets of the Flame Continent. Among the clauses in the Great Green Hill Declaration was that everyone who remained alive was pardoned from the death penalty, and that there would be no reason for the war to continue after today. And on the same day Old Gu and those with him returned, the demons received orders to withdraw immediately towards the Central Continent. That was the happiest news they heard in their lives. That's all that matters now. But after the overwhelming joy that hit them out of nowhere like a hammer, everyone returned to reality. They went back to look around them, and they saw a scorched and occupied land that they no longer had authority over. The nightmare ended, but at what cost? The children of the Flame Continent wiped the tears from their eyes. They themselves did not know whether they were tears of joy or helplessness, and without a word, they started removing the rubble and rebuilding their homes with hunched backs and lifeless eyes. The Ancestral Continent. Although most of the people of the Ancestral Continent live in kingdoms other than the Black Sun and are considered to be under the occupation of Robin as well, the feeling that they are under occupation and that this is very humiliating and these thoughts did not disturb them even for a moment. Simply what they saw during the past year and a half made them forget what the word homeland or belonging means. Currently, their homeland is the rubble under which they live and their belonging is to the members of their families who are still alive. That's if they exist. Their hatred for Robin was not an iota less than the people of the rest of the continents. For most of them Robin is the reason that will keep them alive. They feed on the idea that someday they will watch him die. Robin knew this very well, yet his speech that resonated throughout the Ancestral Continent did not consider anyone's feelings, did not inspire anyone and certainly did not make them hate him any less. But it was more than enough to deliver the message Robin wants. Hate me all you want but respect me. This, combined with the fact that they were all certain that the only person who could restore safety to the continent was Robin, made it possible for them to accept Billy and the Burtons who already started taking over the streets. It wasn't all easy for Billy though, there was still a lot of hostility and resistance, but they did not represent 10% of the population of the continent who wanted to regain a sense of security even for 1 minute before death, and this resistance did not make a big difference. Billy and the demons killed or imprisoned anyone who resisted the implementation of the new system and continued with the plan to tighten security and restore the government on the continent. The week after the Great Green Hill Declaration, the whole planet ignited in different ways. But the week that followed was nothing short of amazement and shock. Starting from the second week after the Great Green Hill Declaration, the advantages of joining the true beginning empire began to be manifested for everyone, in the continents of the water, the wind, and the sacred tree. For the first time in history, everyone agreed on one thing: to reject the rule of someone they don't even know. Everyone got out to the streets and riots broke out like never before, but it was still limited to their mid-core strength. They couldn't really affect what was going on in the palaces without their own powerhouses to support them. But they didn't find any. The protests that lasted for about 10 days subsided and the people accepted their destiny after they saw that all the high-level sages were satisfied with the situation. But things didn't stop at that. A strange phenomenon began to spread in all the streets, something that if someone thought of it before, he would have gotten up and poured cold water on his head, thinking that he is daydreaming. It started when the imperial army descended on the capital, but not for the purpose of punishing the people who protested or implemented the laws of their new emperor by force as everyone thought, but rather to distribute hundreds of minor heavenly laws techniques, each up to the third stage, and not laws pertaining to the heavenly path that the people of each continent specialize in, but rather those minor laws about all aspects of life. For example, in the water continent, people were surprised to receive books bearing minor laws about plants, pressure, winds, flames, and so on. It was said that the world emperor called Robin Burton was the one who discovered all these laws and wanted to share them with his subjects. After every continental ruler returned to his home, He learned how to use the tablets given to them by their new emperor, and they ordered him to make written copies of them and distribute them to everyone as the emperor wanted. Tens of thousands of saints were appointed to make written copies of hundreds of new minor, heavenly law cultivation techniques and publish them as soon as they finished them, and for free. There was truly an inexhaustible source of those books with all those sages working non-stop, and with the full support of the continental rulers. How could it not reach as many people as possible? People thought it was a way for their rulers to distract them and that this was just a joke or a hoax, but during the few months that followed the distribution of those books, many people said that they really benefited something from them and started using these minor heavenly law cultivation techniques to support their main law, and even a new generation of youngsters appeared who succeeded in building their pillars from those new laws. Although choosing to use a minor law over a major law seems illogical, it is simply that not everyone is interested in having the strongest law. For example, there are farmers who want the plants and life paths laws to help them out, and there are blacksmiths who want fire path laws. As such, the working-class citizens were one of the biggest beneficiaries of those minor heavenly law cultivation techniques. But the biggest beneficiaries, undoubtedly, were the servant families. Just a short while ago, they could not practice the major laws that the ruling families possessed. They only had extremely old minor laws that barely reached the second stage. But now they have hundreds of laws to choose from and they all reach the third stage. Sagehood stage. And that's not all. 3 months after the Great Green Hill Declaration, it was announced that competitions would be organized for youngsters who are still in the foundation stage, and the winner of these competitions and activities has the right to choose among 4 major laws: flames, plants, water, and wind. The main laws for the rest of the continents will be handed over to children who have not entered the knighthood realm yet. This news sparked controversy in all 3 continents. And not just handing over the known major laws, but it is said that these new techniques are perfect and much better than what they used to know during their history. Then, another piece of news spread about the opening of academies to teach something called making divine weapons and teaching drawing something called talismans. And a few months later the markets were flooded with sound rings, oath tablets, and various divine equipment and talismans. It didn't take long for the 3 continents to begin to show the influence of Emperor Robin's orders. In just 1 year. Economically, the production of everything has doubled and the quality of life in general has become much better. Militarily, the formation of the army diversified after it was based on one law technique, and each cultivator began to learn other side laws that would help him massively in his battles. Socially, a new enthusiasm was ignited among everyone, especially among the young generation, to train better and develop their talents to explore all those new doors that were opened for them. The Flame Continent. The course of events there was delayed because everyone was busy returning to their homes and rebuilding what was destroyed, but this only took 3 months. Thanks to Billy's policy during the invasion, what was not necessary was not destroyed. Any house that was destroyed was a side effect of a huge battle or because one of the soldiers hid in it, but most of the houses and infrastructure remained as they were, so with some effort and simple construction, the continent returned as it was almost. And from that point on, Gu took advantage of the opportunity to keep up with the rest and began to copy and distribute law books as well. He asked a few rune masters and divine weapon smiths to make a few academies, and even forced everyone, especially the servant families, to study these techniques as quickly as possible. He knew what was going on in the rest of the continents through the Sound Ring and was coordinating with Alexander and the rest of the continental rulers. They all took the same orders to strengthen the average strength per individual in their regions before the start of the planetary war, and he did not want the Barnett family and the inhabitants of the Flame Continent to lag behind the rest of their old comrades too much. The people of the Flame Continent didn't know why their ruler Gu Barnett had pressured them to such an extent to learn and strengthen themselves, but he didn't need a reason either. After what they had been exposed to in the war against the demons, everyone knew that they were still weak and that gaining strength was the right way to maintain peace. Even without his pressure, everyone in the Flame Continent was eager to absorb everything that is thrown at them. So by the end of the first year after the announcement of Great Green Hill, the Flame Continent was walking shoulder to shoulder with the rest of the 3 continents. The Ancestral Continent. The week that followed the Great Green Hill Declaration witnessed a massive struggle between the Burton family and the demon army from one side, and between the beneficiaries of the status quo, such as the gangs, from the other side. For how can they hand over this crime paradise and return it to the law easily? During the attempt to subject the cities to the law again, many gang members who had broken through to the knighthood realm appeared in mass, some of whom were hiding from the demons all along, but most of them were at peak level 10 and broke through after Robin's speech. Strong battles took place throughout the continent, and not only the gang members, but there were also those who had a strong sense of revenge towards Robin and his family. Those who hate Robin hated the gangs as well, but for the first time they stood together under the principle of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The resistance was unexpectedly strong. In a matter of a week, many of the knights of the Burton family and the demons fell. But the power difference between the two parties was just too overwhelming, and it started to show its effect soon after. With every passing day, dozens of cities were combed, cleansed, and annexed to the true beginning empire. This internal war continued for 2 months after the Great Green Hill Declaration. By that time, all criminal organizations were dismantled or destroyed, and everyone who was filled with the fire of hatred toward Robin and the Burton family was also pursued and killed. As Robin said in his declaration, no one cared about giving justifications and asking for forgiveness. Whoever raised his weapon was put to death. As for the rest of the people of the ancestral continent, they did not have a problem with the declaration. As Robin said, this is what everyone used to do in wars, and their ancestors experienced it more than once. And this is not about what was happening in wars in dusty times, but they themselves saw what happened in the lands of the Burton family and especially Jura City. Robin Burton won the war against the 8 kingdoms, and what happened after was only to be expected. He could have been much more merciful, but well, he wasn't. At least Robin is starting to fix things now. But then came the important question. What next? The continent fell under the control of the so-called true beginning empire, but the farms were burned, the factories destroyed, and the roads were demolished. What did they gain after establishing the law? At least the gangs were forcing citizens to work in farming lands to produce some food to resell to people in exchange for working for them or finding treasures on their behalf. Now even these farms are devoid of slaves and the crops are spoiled. A very gloomy wave has descended on the entire ancestral continent. Everyone is sitting at home safe, but hungry. Everyone knew that a severe famine had begun and that at least half of the continent's population would die out before their alleged empire began providing some food for the rest. Death is inevitably coming. But what really came were food convoys. Immediately after the true beginning empire finished tightening its grip on the ancestral continent, a strange phenomenon began to occur. Huge amounts of food and clean water appeared everywhere, and for free. At first, it was just tables spread with grilled meat and clean water. And then, a few weeks later, these tables began to multiply and fruits, vegetables, and bread made from grains appeared on them. The famine ended before it began, and no one knows how. They only take their portions allocated for each day and cry with joy while they eat. It has been a long time since they ate these quantities until they forgot what satiety means. They even forgot what pure water tasted like after they had to drink straight from the rivers that became filled with the dead bodies of humans and beasts. Behind the scenes, it was simply that Billy knew something like this would happen. So he gathered many commoners and gave them a fee to plow the land and sow the seeds, then ordered the few remaining Life Legion members to force those seeds to germinate quickly. And while germinating those seeds, repairing roads, and making stores for food, Billy ordered the demons to hunt down the beasts and fill the deficit in food until the grains and fruits reach people. As for pure water, it was easy. There were many demons who are practicing the major heavenly law of water. For months after the Great Green Hill Declaration, after ensuring the safety of lives and stomachs, Billy began dividing the ancestral continent into regions headed by one of the elders of the Burton family, and each elder was given battalions of demons and a few members of the Life Legion to help him manage his new position. 6 months after the Great Green Hill Declaration, all agricultural lands, factories, and shops returned to work, while properties and lands whose owners died were distributed among the poor to start a new life. Everything returned to it was before the war began. The difference is that there are no longer any borders anywhere on the continent. It is really still divided, but only administratively to facilitate taking care of people's interests. But now anyone can migrate to any place on the continent without anyone asking him where you are going. And there's something that stunned Billy when he heard of it. Something he thought would be quite the opposite. The general average cultivation level in the continent has skyrocketed and become much higher than before. In the past, it was only the noble families who possessed the heavenly laws techniques and energy cultivation techniques and could access knighthood, while the commoners were mostly working with forced labor in the lands and factories, and they had no means to cultivate even the energy foundation realm. And no desire either. With no heavenly laws techniques, what will they do with cultivating to the 10th level? They can't go anywhere after that, so why bother? Better spend that time on something more useful. But after the war and the spread of the energy cultivation techniques everywhere, and everyone's newfound greed for strength, the average cultivation level among the commoners jumped from level 1 to level 8. Now it is rare to find a person on the streets below level 5. Not only that, after the proclamation of the empire and everyone was allowed to cultivate again, a huge number of people had broken through to the knighthood realm during the 6 months since the announcement. Now the ancestral continent gained a huge number of knights who had seen hell with their eyes, and hundreds of millions of level 5-10 foundation energy realm who had returned from the gates of death. If a war took place between the ancestral continent now and the ancestral continent that was 10 years ago, for example, the current ancestor continent would gain a crushing will. But this was not enough. In the 7th month after the announcement of Big Green Hill, a huge amount of books containing techniques of heavenly laws and techniques of soul cultivation and energy absorption began to sweep across the ancestor continent like wildfire. Compulsory academies have been set up to train all children from the age of 5 to 18, with zones for training and dissemination of cultivation advice among adults. This new policy did not meet any resistance from the people who tasted pain and knew the value of strength. On the contrary, the speed of development of the ancestral continent was terrifying compared to the rest of the world. 2 years after the Great Green Hill Declaration, the exploration frenzy that struck the 5 inhabited continents did not subside for a moment. Every day was like a gift box full of surprises for the inhabitants of Jura world. The number of techniques and talismans and their applications invaded every corner of the 5 continents so quickly that even after 2 years people still couldn't digest everything. After all, the books of heavenly law techniques that spread across the 5 continents alone numbered hundreds. And this exploration frenzy was accompanied by another kind of madness. Strength gaining. Since it was announced that everyone has now access to most of the cultivation techniques and minor heavenly laws techniques, and that they can even access higher heavenly laws, techniques, and equipment in the future by making military achievements for the army of the true beginning empire, and that training resources are available to everyone just like food and water, and that even their empire encourages them to train. There was no reason for them not to take energy cultivation seriously. The commoners and the servant families made the best use of the opportunity and compensated for thousands of years of oppression and marginalization. It is finally their chance to have a voice in this world. As the noble families, they wanted to maintain their advantage over the commoners by increasing their power even more, after seeing the rate at which the commoners are gaining strength. They knew that if they slaked off now the tables would turn. Their historical claim over their lands and position wouldn't worth anything. For the first time in the history of the planet, the production of experts has become en masse. The time of veneration of knights and saints ended faster than everyone thought, as breaking through into knighthood is no longer a difficult thing after the spread of minor law techniques, but rather it has become the bare minimum to be a decent human. In the world today, you will not be able to propose marriage to the girl you love if you are not even a knight. You will be seen as frail, lazy, and don't have what it takes to take care of your woman. And surely you would be a laughing stock if you were a farmer and did not build your knighthood pillars by minor heavenly law from the heavenly paths of plants, of life, or a blacksmith and did not build your pillars by minor heavenly law from the path of fire. Besides knighthood, the sainthood domain also decreased in prestige in the eyes of Jura world inhabitants. After it was a domain reserved for high-ranking nobles, it became the real goal for the cultivators, and it was not that difficult target either. After providing the best techniques and training resources, every day hundreds of people around the world broke through into sainthood. Currently, the only domain that is still revered is the sagehood, as cultivating in that domain requires a lot of time, resources, and talent, and these are something that not everyone possesses. Yet, the state of anger and resistance in the 4 empire continents formerly after turning to vassals under a stranger has gone with the winds. Although they were prevented from leaving their continents recently and communication was cut off between the peoples of the 4 continents and they could not know what was happening in the outside world, it didn't matter anymore. It was no longer important to them whether or not the whole world had been united under the so-called new emperor. On the contrary, the inhabitants of the world, now including the ancestral continent, wish that the news is not true and that these techniques and benefits are for them only. Who cares if the rest of the world will laugh at them for being under occupation? If the occupation was so wonderful, then let them remain occupied forever. But at the end of the 2nd year after the announcement of the Great Green Hill Declaration, something else happened that shook Jura world again. It was announced that the space portals on the 5 continents can now be activated. It was said in the announcement that when using that portal, you only have to pay 5 energy stones, and you will be sent to any other continent on the planet except for the central continent. The new announcement fell like thunder in everyone's ears. Just until recently, they would send their most precious and talented youth to meet with their equals in the central continent. But that was it. No continent would accept intruders from a place that is considered rivals or even enemies, so even the sages and talented youths could not go anywhere other than the central continent and the ancestral continent. Even if it is possible to go to any other place in the world, ocean sailing is very dangerous because of the presence of all those sea beasts. It requires the presence of several sages on each ship to have a chance to reach its destination safely. The cost of hiring many sages for a sea trip that requires months of wasted time and facing death every day was mind-blowing, and therefore the travel of ordinary people is considered an impossibility even if all the continents coexisted in true peace. The dream of travel was in everyone's mind, but it never went beyond being a dream. Until today's announcement, at least, it was a thing out of everyone's imagination. But the strange thing is that no one said that it might be a lie. With all the crazy things happening every day, nothing is out of reach for their new empire. The inhabitants of the 5 continents gathered around their space portals and waited for them to be activated. They eagerly want to experience that wondrous innovation. And most importantly, they want to go to other continents and brag to the people there about all those treasures and wonders that happened to them in the last 2 years. The people of other continents must be surprised when they see us. This is what the people of all continents thought as they stood in front of the space portals. Had it not been for their leaders stressing that their visits to other sides should be polite and peaceful, many would have prepared to conquer those other continents and annex them to the true beginning empire. Some of them even prepared men and weapons in secret to take control of some lands on the other continents and gain the approval of their new mysterious emperor. It is our duty to civilize those peasants, everyone said about everyone else. That day was a disappointment but also a moment of realization for many. Whenever one passes through the gate, he sees in front of him a huge crowd of people looking at him from the other side. In a few moments the 5 continents exchanged thousands of visitors and all of them were shocked by the reality at the same moment. Their rulers have been truthful all along. The whole world possesses the same techniques that they possess and define themselves as part of the true beginning empire. 2 full years after the announcement of the Big Green Hill, the inhabitants of the planet Jura made sure that they are indeed under the same rule. The week after the opening of the space portals, the people of the 5 continents felt almost the same when the space portals were announced, some of them feeling frustrated at facing the people of the rest of the continents as a conquered nation who lost their will, and some of them feeling excited that they would be able to show off the new abilities that he and his friends had obtained. Extremely few people actually believed that the entire world had united under the same banner. But this was destroyed seconds after the space portals were opened and the young adventurers began rushing like locusts from every side. Although at first, they did not see anything in front of them except an empty arc, and whoever enters it disappeared, and they do not actually know if he went to another continent or not. But this did not frighten many as they kept rushing to the other side of the space portals. In a few hours, hundreds of thousands of youngsters and those seeking adventure moved through the gates. In the beginning, the inhabitants of the 4 imperial continents directed toward the other imperial continents. They wanted to see what was happening in the entities that they had always considered on an equal footing with them. They wanted to see their culture, techniques, and equipment and compare it to theirs. Very rarely did anyone intend to go to the ancestral continent to the extent that the space portal in the ancestral continent was working almost only in one direction. All of them wanted to get out of the ancestral continent to explore, but no one would enter it. But this only lasted for a few days, until the inhabitants of the 4 imperial continents were sure that they were indeed united. Whenever one of the adventurers takes out a sound ring, he finds the natives have one of them. If they take out a divine weapon, they would find an adventurer from another continent carrying a similar one. As for the topic of discussion was almost the same everywhere at this moment. Did you also fall under the rule of Emperor Robin Burton? What is going on in your homeland? Do you also have this and that? All the shame that some of them felt had disappeared, and all the enthusiasm that the rest felt was gone, and was replaced by a feeling of another kind. We should know more about the World Emperor. In the second week after opening the space portal to public use, a mass emigration took place toward the ancestral continent. One day, the inhabitants of the ancestral continent woke up from their sleep and found people wearing different clothes and speaking in different dialects, asking them things that were supposed to be general knowledge on the ancestral continent, like who is Robin Burton? How was his upbringing? What are the features of his character? What happened that gave him the power to take over the world? The inhabitants of the ancestral continent did not know how to feel about this. Do they glorify the person who made them taste humiliation and suffering for nearly 2 years? Or do they insult one of their own who subjugated the whole world under his rule? In the end, most of them decided to tell the truth and let those adventurers judge for themselves. And the truth was more than enough. For the people of the ancestral continent who tasted torment at the hands of Robin, he is a criminal. Although he now made their lives much better than before, this will not bring back those who were killed at his hands. But as for the citizens of the other 4 continents who have not seen this horror with their own eyes, everything that was said about him was legendary. Even his revenge on the ancestral continent was not excessive. In fact, it can be said that he was very merciful after hearing what happened to his family in Jura City. The city of Jura has now become the #1 shrine on the planet. All travelers from all over the world headed to that place where it all began, observing it from afar with looks of full respect and amazement. After all, it was from this small town that the one and only World Emperor emerged. 3 months after the opening of the space portals, the world exploration frenzy began to subside gradually, and the miraculous space connection between the 5 continents turned into a normal thing now. However, the real benefits of that connection have only begun to reveal themselves, as trade flourished on a daily basis as never before. It began with small merchants tying some culturally related goods like clothes and novel books on their backs and traveling to other continents to sell them. Then these kinds of merchants found a place in each continent to group on sell their goods there. But this was not enough for the big whales. Only selling clothes and stories of the local culture won't last for long. So they had to think of something to make this trade last for as long as possible. They need something that no other can produce as they do. And as such, every continent began to look at what it owned more than other continents, and they began to pave the way to make the most of that thing by nurturing it more and then selling it. For example, the sacred tree continent slowly began to turn into the food basket of the world because of the existence of all those people who specialize in the laws of plants, and the fertile land caused by the interest in plants throughout the tens of thousands of years of the rule of the Trent family. The Flame continent began to specialize in the manufacture of high-level weapons and divine weapons mainly, and gradually surpassed the rest in the number of factories and workshops and the number of the younger generation members who wanted to take part in the troublesome craft. As half of the troubles in the craft was non-existence to then, as they already got used to being around the hot flames. The Water continent cared more about capturing energy stones from the depths of the sea, and it became the main supplier of ordinary energy stones in the world and the main resource for meat as well because of the inexhaustible amount of sea beasts. While the Wind continent tended to specialize in supporting the rune masters and providing all the resources needed for the inks that are used in the runes and the leather and metals on which they are engraved. As for the Ancestral continent, whose people were still busy rebuilding their destroyed cities and raising a new generation of experts after all their experts were killed in the war, they had neither the time nor the energy to take advantage of the specialization frenzy. They had nothing they could provide better than the rest of the deeply rooted continents either. But fortunately for them, they are the birthplace of the World Emperor. The Ancestral continent slowly turned into the most crowded place on the planet and the most prosperous also after it was chosen to be the World Trade Center. 2 years and 11 months after the Great Green Hill Declaration, the Ancestral continent in front of the Shadows Swords Organization headquarters. Hustle, hustle. Stand in one line. Whoever gets out of line will be banned from joining the entrance exams for 20 years. A person dressed in black walked out from the balcony of the headquarters and shouted loudly. Although he had recently become a sage, he was not sure if his loud energy-filled voice had reached the people standing at the end of the line, which was a few kilometers long. So he signaled to some of the knights that were dressed in black to go to the back of the line and pass on his words. It is said that the person who stands first in line now has been moving forward in the line for 4 months. Although the organization's main headquarters was built from scratch on an empty site in the middle of the continent, within a few days of announcing its existence, it had become the main destination for the young generation throughout the world. During the last 6 months, a small city was built around the Shadow Swords organization headquarters, and it is still expanding. And there were people whose main work was to bring water and food and makeshift toilets to those standing in line. It was exhausting, energy and time draining, and somehow humiliating, and yet most of those who came still held together and stood respectfully. The main goal of the organization or the purpose of its existence has not been announced, and anyway it is not important to them. Everyone here came for one thing, and that is the head of the Shadow Swords organization, Theo Burton, the adopted son of Emperor Robin Burton. Since the space portals were opened and information spread about the journey of Emperor Robin Burton and his followers, legends also spread about the 4 special legions that supported his military successes, and the extent of the damage that these small legions caused against the Flame Empire, and that for a full 10 years, the Flame Empire was unable to eliminate them completely. And what increased the legends about them is that these 4 special legions are headed by the adopted sons of the Emperor. If excluding Emperor Robin's deceased wife and his son whom he declared he was still alive but said he was being tortured somewhere, then those 4 are undoubtedly the closest to the Emperor. Very soon an obsession spread far and wide to join the 4 special legions, especially so among the younger generation. How can they not when they can immediately obtain high status, prestige, and respect, and be closer to the Emperor of their world? However, they were quickly shocked that the Fire, Wind, and Life Legions had been temporarily disbanded and were currently being merged with the armies of the Flame, Wind, and Divine Tree Empires, and it was not announced when they would be revived. But that dream was not completely killed. Only 5 months after the opening of the space portals, the Shadow Swords organization appeared. Being established on the ruins of the Darkness Special Legion and headed by Theo Burton personally, and still have many of the heroes of the Legion who followed the Emperor and united the world by his side. It was something impossible to resist. There was no need to say more. Large numbers of youngsters flocked from all over the world. No one knew what that organization was or what they had to do to join, or what duties would they have to do after joining. They just stood in line waiting for their turn to meet their heroes when their turn comes. Brother, what brings you here? I heard the test inside is very difficult. Don't try to dissuade me to give you my turn. I know I will probably be rejected, but I have to see His Highness Theo just once. Then I will accept whatever the outcome. Idiot, don't you know that the major heavenly law of darkness is one of the very few laws that His Majesty Robin hasn't distributed to everyone? His Highness Theo definitely keeps it for himself and his followers, and the fact that it hasn't been leaked yet, even though the Shadow Swords organization has accepted many new members, means that whoever is accepted will be taking an oath of some kind. Currently, the Shadow Swords organization are the most mysterious and insignificant in the world, and you say you are here only to see His Highness. What idiocy! As for me, I must be one of them. One is an idiot and the other is a stupid teenager. You think you'll be special as a member of Shadow Swords when there are thousands more who use the major heavenly law of darkness. I'm from the Flame Continent and I used the Foundation modification technique to obtain the white fire. I wonder what will happen after receiving the major heavenly law of darkness from His Highness Theo and combining it with my cultivation using the Foundation modification technique. Ah! I can stand here for another 100 years to achieve this goal. The person behind the two of them suddenly intervened. Ha! Do you think you are a genius? You just want to imitate His Highness Caesar. The two looked behind them and spoke in one breath. Then one of them continued, anyone can adjust their cultivation thanks to His Majesty's legendary Foundation modification technique. But what then? You will be stuck at that level forever. You think you are brilliantly smart like His Majesty to make up your own law cultivation technique? You are daydreaming. As the discussion raged between the three, An angry voice came from behind them. Damn. I can't stay here forever. I am the 93rd son of the Frost Imperial family. How can I be treated as a commoner? Make way for me. What the hell did you say? Which family are you from? There is only one Imperial family now. His Majesty Robin Burton's family. You are no different from us now, you dumb bastard. Take back your words, or I will tell one of the shadow swords on you. The 93rd son did not know that his words, which he said in a moment of anger, would attract the attention of all who heard him. It seemed that life stopped for a moment before the looks turned towards him to anger. Then some killing intent began to leak out against him. Gulp. Sorry. On a hotel balcony overlooking the Shadow Swords organization headquarters. Haha, it will take a long time for the world's population to get used to the new order. Robin laughed out loud as he took a sip from the cup in his hand. A very handsome, long-haired young man spoke behind Robin at a feeble pace. Yes, but there is a great improvement compared to the situation 11 months ago. Everyone knows that they are yours now. They just need to be reminded every now and then. Commune. Robin raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard the knock on the door and spoke. Squeak. The door opened slowly and a man entered with his back. Then he turned around and showed Billy's face with a big cake in his hand and a candle in the middle of it. Then he said with a smile, Finally I found you. Oh, Mr. Continental Ruler is personally here? To whom do I owe this visit? Robin chuckled when he heard Billy's voice, and spoke, still not turning to the door. Ahahaha. So funny. Wasn't it you who sent a shadow sword to summon me? Billy took a few steps up to the balcony, placed the cake on the small table in front of Robin, and smiled. This is your first official appearance since the Great Green Hill Declaration. Where have you been all this time? Touring the ancestral continent previously made me realize that sitting in a meditation position behind fortified walls is nothing compared to seeing the world, meditating on its stories, and seeing the truth behind it. Robin said, looking toward the horizon. Oh? Billy sat down in an empty chair that had been prepared for him next to Robin. Are you really just meditating on stories and truths? I don't think you are that bored. Your aura seems much deeper than the last time I saw you. Even though you were already at the pinnacle of the sainthood realm. Hoy, you didn't break through to the sagehood realm yet, are you? Haha. You have a keen eye. Your new position seems to have given you special powers. Haha. Robin laughed loudly and then shook his head. But alas no, I haven't broken through to the sagehood realm yet. There is still an obstacle in front of me blocking the way. How do I explain it to you? Feels like I'm blind in a very spacious hall and trying to find the way out. It's true that I'm moving forward, but I don't know in which direction I walk. I don't know whether to walk towards the door or I will just end up running into another wall. Reaching the 4th level of the Master Law of Truth might take a lot more time than I expected. I guess I should be worried too since the hopes of Planet Jura rest on your shoulders, especially when it comes to exploring techniques and laws. But I'm not worried in the slightest. Billy scratched his hair and spoke. If there's only one blind man who can take the right path and make it to the door with certainty, it's you. It's only a matter of time. Thanks for the morale boost, I guess I needed this. Robin chuckled again, then pointed at the cake. So, do you want to tell me what that is? Huh? Don't you really know? Are you saying you randomly summoned me today? Billy opened his eyes wide and said surprised. Just a day like any other. What's special about it? Robin raised his eyebrows and asked, then looked at Theo. Do you know anything about what he's saying? Today is the 14th of the 8th month. It's your birthday, father. Theo smiled and replied, Ha! The days became the same since I left the Burtons and went to the cave that day. Wait, how do you both know that? Robin mumbled slightly, then raised his head and asked Theo again. This has become general information in the entire planet since the opening of the space portals. The questions of the people about their new emperor made many searches after your origins. Information like this has long been found out and published. In fact, there are celebrations all over the world now, and an official holiday has been declared in the Sacred Tree Continent on the occasion of your birthday. Theo Ziplit? Huh? Haha, what a useless holiday. I don't even know how old I am. Robin laughed out loud. Do you want to know? A big smile appeared on Billy's face as he jokingly asked. Actually, no, I don't. Robin shrugged. Billy furrowed his brows and continued. I'll tell you anyway. And this is not a secret. Anyone can find out by digging a bit into the historical records. You are now exactly 187 years old. 187 years? That sounds like a lot. And much fewer than I expected too. Robin leaned his back on the chair and spoke in a low voice. All those events I have gone through, I feel like they could fill thousands of years of anyone's lifetime. But looking back, I feel like I just entered that cave yesterday. Life is really something extremely profound. Billy raised his eyebrows slightly. This was not the reaction he expected when he brought the cake and came to celebrate with him. How did the celebration turn into a meditation on the origins of life? Cough, cough, I think this number is unfair, honestly. You are no doubt born 187 years ago, but your body is much younger. I think you are in your 50s now. Billy wanted to return the dialogue to joy again, so he opened a topic aside while cutting the cake. Haha, I think you are right. After the all-seeing God's sudden intervention that day, he reverted me back to the age of 12. If we count based on this number, then my physical age is only 53. While that sounds better, it is better to publish this number. The other one makes me feel too old. Robin laughed out loud and took a piece of the cake from Billy's hand, and passing another one to Theo next to him. You look old? In whose eyes? Everyone I saw when he heard your true age for the first time was opening his mouth wide, as if he wanted to swallow me. Don't forget the world emperors before you whom everyone calls the young and the hope. Their ages range from 800 and 1100. Compared to them, you are a baby. Billy spit the cookie out of his mouth and yelled. Ha ha ha. Baby? Is this how people see me? Robin laughed out loud and took a pat on his thigh. Billy put his hand on his chest and spoke confidently. Of course, you think I joke about something like that? Hurry up and finish your cake and I'll get you some milk. Ha ha ha. Theo gave a satisfied smile as he saw his adoptive father laughing like this. He even saw a few tears starting to fall from the side of Robin's eyes. When was the last time he saw him laughing like this? Rather, did he ever see him laugh like this before? But this is also normal since he saw him in the slave market that day and he is always planning something or facing someone. Today he is just chilling while standing on the absolute top of the planet. What else could he worry about? Perhaps this is the real face of his father when worries leave him. But when Theo picked up Billy's face, the satisfied smile disappeared from his face. As he saw something very strange, the louder Robin laughed. The worse Billy's facial features. What? Didn't Uncle Billy want to see my father happy? Then, out of nowhere, Billy's voice interrupted Robin's laughter. Are you okay? You look nervous. Why did you invite me today? Ha ha. Hee. Herr Robin's laughter gradually diminished until it disappeared, then said, I trust you don't need the demons anymore? Your weird behavior has something to do with the demons? Anyway, yes, I don't need them anymore. Billy replied without hesitation. Are you sure? If they disappear immediately, will the continent remain safe? Robin asked again. You tell me. The governors have established their own police force in each province. And we also have a central police force that oversees the security of the entire continent represented by the sons of the families of Rufus, Bradley, and Camden. Other than this and that, we have the Shadow Sword forces that are growing day by day. I doubt that there is any danger that will face the continent internally at any time soon. Oh, good. Good. That's reassuring. You have completed your mission of restoring security and giving up your need for the demons in less than 3 years. You really are someone to count on, Billy. Robin muttered in a low voice and placed the piece of cake on the table in front of him again. Then he continued, I now want you to make an official announcement to send all the demons to the central continent. Are you sure about what you are saying, Robin? Do you know what will happen if I left them without supervision? Billy furrowed his eyebrows even more and asked. I personally experienced how fast the life cycle of those demons is and how many cubs their females can have within a year. They are now from rabbits. You brought with you over 100,000 demons, but their numbers have approached 500,000 over the past 5 years. Their numbers are increasing at a frightening speed, and their cubs are growing so fast that I was terrified. I even passed laws to separate their males from their females a few months ago. Do you really want to send them to the central continent and leave them unattended? A huge shadow suddenly appeared in front of everyone, blocking the sunlight, and spoke in a tone that was filled with apparent anger. It is good that you mention the matter yourself. My lord, does it please you what this person did with my people? To command the separation of males from females? He treats us like animals in the mating season. Had it not been for your lordship who placed him as ruler of the ancestral continent before your departure, we wouldn't have stayed silent for this long. Billy looked at the newcomer. So your honored self decided to appear, you damn demon. Do you realize the bill for supplying beast meat to this many mouths? We have recently had to allocate ships to hunt huge sea beasts around the ancestral continent to try to satisfy your restless hunger. It's like you damn things are always in a famine. And what is more problematic is that the beast meat doesn't even satisfy your hunger. But you have a constant thirst for human flesh. Who knows how many innocent people you have hunted down over the past few years. All the demon kings are supervising the control of our new cubs and teaching them not to hunt humans on planet Jura. Where do you get that we are killing humans from? We struggle to control ourselves for His Excellency's sake, and you are here defaming us. Don't speak without evidence. The newcomer got heated up and raised his voice at Billy and then looked at Robin. Sire, we followed you with our hearts and souls because you saved us from those who kill our little cubs. Now this person does not want us to touch each other in the first place. How are you going to give us justice? All right, calm down, Amon. And you too, Billy. I realize that you both had problems and both of you see it from your own point of view. The race of demons is indeed a big problem for any ecosystem, and the reason for that is that they are not a natural race. I heard that they were cursed or something like that. I will look into it later when I have time. And anyway, you don't need to worry, we won't need to think about it again. When Robin saw the argument gets heated, he raised his hands and smiling. Then he added, Amon, I was just talking to Billy about migrating all the demons to the central continent. Choose a good spot there and allocate it to you and live as you wish. What about our food? Amon was silent for a few seconds, then asked in a low voice. Ahahaha, when he heard this, Billy started laughing hysterically. Ever since he heard Robin say live as you wish, he knew this was going to be a problem. The demons are man-eating beasts. They can eat beasts and ordinary animals as well, but it wouldn't satisfy their hunger, and they need huge amounts of that meatless meat every day. The demons couldn't have survived the past few years without human flesh if not for the Navy fleets roaming all the seas looking for food for them. If they didn't have that help in providing their food, they will die out. Of course, go back hunting humans. Also, if they were left unattended and allowed to produce naturally, then within 1 century they would eat every green and dry land on the entire planet. You! Amon got angry when he heard Billy's laugh and was ready to have another round of shouting at him, but he didn't know what to say. Shut up, both of you. I told you there will be no need for that. Robin moved his hands again to separate them and then looked at Amon. Just do as I say and we'll talk later about your food. Yes. Amon bowed a little and replied. He did not know what solution Robin would propose, but as long as he said he would take care of the matter, then it was a done deal. Robin nodded at him slowly with a forced smile and then looked at the ground for a few seconds, before raising his head again and looking at Billy. Oh, by the way, how's the invasion preparations? We'll be moving in about a month. Billy didn't reply directly. He kept looking into Robin's eyes with knotted eyebrows for a few seconds without saying a word. But when Robin met him silently and his light smile, he sighed and replied, Don't wait for anything special from the ancestral continent. The ancestral continent has developed a lot in the past 3 years and there are millions of knights now, but not a single saint has emerged from them yet, and they all still hate your guts, so I don't think they are ready to fight for you yet. In general, there is no significant force on the ancestor continent other than the forces of the Burton family, which is represented by about 20,000 saints, and they are all ready to move at any time. As for the preparations on the other 4 continents, they are in full swing. Almost every day, 1 or 2 battalions are sent toward the central continent. Currently, there are more than 2 million soldiers in a camp around your imperial capital, and their numbers are still increasing day by day. At this rate, it will not be long before the army reaches 4 million. Don't worry, you will have a decent army before the deadline. An army of 3 million soldiers, huh? Robin mumbled and slowly rubbed his chin. I distributed all the energy pearls I brought from Nahari at the Green Hill meeting. I think they were about 5 million or so. Is there enough energy pearls left to transport that many individuals? Those 5 million did not remain in our pockets. They contributed to the upbringing of a huge number of knights and saints. I doubt that even a quarter of that number remained. Secondly, how much does transportation cost per person to that planet anyway? Billy furrowed his eyebrows and asked. I don't know, the all-seeing God did not tell me this detail, and I forgot to ask him, and I think I wouldn't have asked even if I remembered. Both of us were too angry to prolong the conversation further. Anyway, it depends on the distance between us and that place, but precaution is a must. We can't risk having a problem with the space portal during the transportation process. Amon. Robin raised his eyes and looked at the goblin standing beside him. Yes, Your Excellency. Amon took a step closer and asked. I want you to start a business with the Nahari Union sect, sell them talismans from the new designs I gave to the factories, and sell them at the highest possible price. I want you to save at least 10 million energy coins within the next month at any cost. Amon was stunned when he heard the number. This amount of pearls could shake the foundations of any large tribe in the Nahari world. Do you think they would agree? I gave them the entire eastern region. If they cannot provide this small quantity of pearls within a month, then they are not worth all my hard work. I know they can do it, but if they do not agree, tell them that we will sell those talismans in the southern region. This will get them back to their minds. Robin shrugged and replied indifferently. As you wish, Your Excellency. And if they refuse further, then I will take the demon army and destroy that sect for you and bring you its entire treasury. Amon proudly slammed on his chest. Aside from the fact that the space portal is located in the heart of Hope City, and that he can deploy a huge number of troops in the heart of the city before anyone notices, the demons really did reach a frightening level of strength during the war on planet Jura. Declaring war on the sect wasn't that far-fetched in there anymore. They ate their fill as if they would never eat again. Although the war on planet Jura was not related to them, they wished for a war like this every day. Robin rested his back on his chair for a moment, then replied, No need, it's not time yet. If they refuse, carry out your threat and go sell talismans and weapons to the southern region. Then he gestured beside it. Oh, right. Take him with you on your trip to Nahari. Amon looked towards the place that Robin points to, and found Theo standing, also puzzled by the decision, then asked in astonishment him, What, do you have a problem? Amon quickly waved both his hands. No, Your Excellency. How dare I question your decision? But the gravity there is just too. I did not forget about that. I left a new design for a bracelet with runes from the gravitational path in the Ancestral Continent Rune Academy. After activating it, the effect of the bracelet will be sufficient to reflect the effect of gravity on any other planet and make it equal to gravity on the planet Jura. I believe that the first batch will be ready this week. Robin replied with ease. Oh, doesn't that mean you can send the human army to Nahari too? Amon asked quickly with excitement in his voice. It was clear that the demons had not forgotten what the giants had done to them for hundreds of thousands of years. All I want is to establish a trade that benefits both parties. Don't let your imagination go too far. You and the rest of the demon kings will have your own stuff to do, and you are not used to these trading affairs anyway, so I thought of leaving it in the hands of the humans. Robin chuckled upon hearing this and then added, You will take a few commerce experts from the Burton family alongside Theo and a few men of the Shadow Swords to protect them. All you have to do this time is to introduce them to the sect elders. Then it will be a direct transaction between them and you can get out of the equation, understood? Oh, all right. Amon replied with obvious disappointment. Good, you can disperse now. Let's meet again in my imperial city a month from now. Robin clapped and announced. I hear and obey. Amon bowed slightly and jumped off the balcony, quickly disappearing in the same way he appeared. Theo also took a step back and merged with his shadow, and disappeared. As for Billy, he remained seated for a few seconds, staring at Robin with half-closed eyes. Little brother, can I help you with something there? Do you want your cake back or something? Robin raised his eyebrows and asked sarcastically. Billy didn't reply immediately. He just kept staring at Robin as if he was trying to figure something out. After a few seconds, he finally gave up and spoke. Can I help you? Do you have anything you want to tell me? You don't have to take it all on your shoulders, you know. No, everything is fine. Go now and facilitate the transfer of the demons to their new home. Robin replied slowly and looked toward the horizon. Billy looked at him for a few more seconds, with apparent disappointment this time, and then slowly stood up and moved towards the door muttering, "As you wish, my friend. As you wish." 1 week later, planet Nahari, City of Hope. Eh? Oh my God. The space portal has been activated. Just as the council predicted, His Excellency has decided to destroy us. I can't believe His Excellency really decided to do it. Damn it, if he postponed this invasion for a few months, we would have completed the process of moving to the city of tomorrow. Why now? Go tell the elders. Summon everyone that should be summoned. Damn! The tens of thousands of guards of various races stationed around the space portal raised their weapons after they saw the spaceport starting to make noises and the space inside started to liquefy. You will not need to wait 20 years for the invasion to come. I will come to you with the invasion. That was what Robin said a few years ago in his final moment on planet Nahari. And it was evident that Robin's threat did not go unnoticed. After Robin left, the council was greatly divided. Part of them decided to preserve the command of their Lord and Savior and carry it out to the letter, saying that he would never harm them if they did not provoke him further because no one would want to destroy what he had built with his own hand. And another part, including the tribes of giants, said that Robin returned to where he came to prepare an army to eliminate them and reconquer the eastern region, saying that he wanted the space portal untouched to make it easier for him to destroy them anytime he wants. Supported their theory that he did not help them because of motherly love, but in order to impose his control and power over the eastern region, and now that his power was withdrawn from him, he will try to take it back at any cost. As for the last third segment of the council, they did not take sides, remaining silent, trembling on the sides, acknowledging the favor of their lord, but also fearing his wrath. In the end, everyone reached a compromise. The space portal is to be preserved without a scratch, as Robin ordered, but in return, the buildings surrounding it were destroyed and turned into a military arena in which more than 40,000 soldiers camp day and night. It was also decided to move the capital to the City of Tomorrow. The City of Tomorrow is the last city that the sect built during the 20 years, and it was chosen because it is the farthest city from the City of Hope. However, because the city is still new and the infrastructure in it still needs a lot of work, the move did not take place immediately. Rather, all the clan's resources were diverted towards it to be properly equipped first and make it even stronger than Hope City before the displacement towards it began. As for why, well, no one wanted to stay in a weak city when the Lord comes back to attack. And though it's still just empty walls with a few scattered buildings, a number of the sect's elders and those close to them have already moved there, throwing everything behind, saying staying in a weak city is better than living inside the eye of the storm. Even the chiefs and representatives of the tribes of giants left the City of Hope to return to the capital of their ancestral lands, and each began to fortify their cities in anticipation of the inevitably coming invasion of Robin from their point of view. But not every one of the higher-ups left. Not a small part of the elders also remained in the City of Hope until the preparations for the City of Tomorrow are completed and they go there with all their kind. But it looks like today they will be proven wrong. Oh, so this is the world that Mr. Jabba and the demons came from? Inhale, do you feel the purity of the air and the density of energy in the air? It's amazing. Whoever trains here, his training speed will double at least 5 times. Even after finding this gem, His Excellency left this planet and returned for our sake when we needed him. Words can't describe how much I respect this man. I understand. I can't believe that the same blood runs through our veins as him. How the hell our family managed to produce such a man? And he is the son of the scum Petter Burton of all. Yep, he was a scum, but that was a hell of a sperm. I can give him that. Hey, have you noticed the gravity bracelets? They are working at full capacity. If it weren't for them, we would have been crushed since we set foot on the planet. How did His Excellency survive when he first came here? Nephew Roa, His Excellency really deserves all the respect and devotion. He really is a... Woa. What is all this about? Dozens of people started to exit the space portal one by one, looking at the sky at times and closing their eyes to feel the aura of this new planet at other times. But the shout of one of them, who finally looked around, brought them back to reality and forced them to look around them. Tens of thousands of individuals were carrying spears and pointing them at their heads. They landed in the midst of an army. Didn't His Excellency say that we are here for trade? Looks like we did something wrong and High Excellency wants to get rid of us. Ah, it's our fault that we are useless to him. Another shadow walked out of the space portal, but it didn't care to look towards the horizon nor sense the energy like the rest, but quietly advanced towards the front of the group. The killing intent that seeped out from him the moment he saw all those soldiers around him started to send cold shivers down everyone's backs. What is going on here? Why are there so many soldiers around the space portal? Who is your supervisor? Amon removed the elders of the Burton family one by one from his way and advanced towards the spears without any intention of stopping, and even started asking questions in the language of the people of Nahari. The captain of the guard took a few steps back so that the spear would not touch Amon's chest and spoke in a shaky voice. Master Amon, please stop. Don't go any further. Don't force us to use violence. Ammonius extended his hand and grabbed the spear, then pulled the guard commander towards him till their faces touched at the forehead. Then Ammonius spoke with clear killing intent. Use your violence then. Although the chief of the guard was also of the sage level, he left the spear in Amon's hand and quickly retreated with a look of horror. Not because Amon is much stronger than him, nor because of his frightening appearance and the killing intent he shows, but because of who he is. Who does not know Amon, a close vassal of the Lord? The one who helped the Lord when he was weak and was the cause of the transformation that happened to the demon race? Since the sect's inception, everyone wanted to know more about the Lord who pulled them out of hell and about the people who helped him do so, and Amon undoubtedly was one of those personalities that everyone cared about. But now they have to raise their weapons against that character that they respect as their ancestors. This idea is terrifying in and of itself. 40,000 soldiers, the weakest of whom is a knight-level cultivator or a warrior who has a tattoo of the first grade. Standing on the other side, a group of individuals not more than 100, and most of them are elderly, and some of them even cannot breathe well because of their obesity. However, there was not a single one of the 40,000 soldiers stood his ground. All of them were either swallowing their saliva or trembling involuntarily. Not because those 100 individuals are too powerful in their eyes, but because of what they represent, because of the person who built that space portal and sent them. Those 100 are followers of the Lord, the same Lord who forsook them. And what makes the situation worse is that according to His Excellency's threat, they can't harm anyone who comes out of that space portal, at least if they don't attack them first. Not knowing whether to attack, block them, or just make way, everyone stood in their positions without moving. They only shot Amon a glance every now and then. Put down your weapons, you idiots. Does that little group look like invaders to you? What's the point of feeding you if you are just going to get us in trouble? Suddenly a loud voice came in. The heavy silence was broken. The captain of the guards raised his face to look in the direction of the voice, and a big smile appeared on his face. Then shouted, "Ah, the elders have come. Few finally. Lower your weapons and step back." Even Amon looked at the few people flying towards him, but with obvious indignation and disdain. Orzon and 9 other individuals landed in front of him, one after the other, with surprised looks and furrowed eyebrows, fixing their gaze on the people standing behind Amon, their frail figures and physiques, those people of the same race as Lord Robin. That was the first thought that came to everyone's mind. Then Orzon finally turned back to look at Amon. What's going on here? Shouldn't I ask this question? Amon raised his hands and pointed towards the army standing around him. Is this how you respect the orders of your lord? Oh, those? His Excellency said that all our efforts and our army should be used to defend the space portal. You were there and heard him say that loud and clear, right? So we moved the army headquarters here to help defend the space portal more efficiently. Orzon replied with a smile. TSK, whatever, I won't get any use out of talking to you, old fox. Amon spat on the ground and then pointed behind him. These are members from the Lord's family. They came here at his wishes to start a trade with the Nahari Union sect. Trade? Orzon and the rest of the elders turned to look at the elders of the Borton family again. Then you are the Lord's kin. We humbly welcome you to the land that His Excellency established. The land that His Excellency founded? Whoa, His Excellency. Do they mean Robin? That's awesome. Most if not all of Jura's world, including the Burton family itself, did not fully believe that Robin is a significant leadership figure in another world, especially since he has only been absent for 20 years. This does not diminish him, especially since he brought with him this huge army that declared their loyalty to him more than once. But the closest to reality in the eyes of everyone is that Robin became one of the trusted followers of a great boss or something like that. But Orzon's words now. "Oh, greeting, Mr. Orzon. According to what we heard from Mr. Jabba and Mr. Amon about what you have here, we have prepared a lot of goods and raw materials that you lack. I assure you, we will be worth every penny of the 10 million. One of the elders of the Burton family, somewhat plump and still in the realm of chivalry, was one of those enslaved at the storming of Ura, but he soon rose to become one of the mainstays of the family because of his great shrewdness in matters of trade. Oh, they can speak our language too? This will make it easier, and wait a moment. 10 what? One of the sect elders behind Orzon rose up and shouted. Amon quickly looked at that elder. What? Your old age affected your damn ears, you old fart? He said 10 million energy pearls will be the value of the trade between the Burton family and the Nahari Union sect, and the exchange will be fully completed within 1 week as well. Do you have a problem with that? Amon, you bastard. Don't you really know the value of that? That old man started moving a few steps towards Amon while shouting. But Orzon's hand interrupted his path and said with a much lower voice, Amon, we appreciate His Excellency's trust in us and his desire to start a business with us, especially a business of this size. We really do. But as you know, this is not a small amount of wealth and we currently have a lot of expenses. We may not be able to collect it quickly enough to be completed in this exchange alone, but we may be able to collect 250,000 energy pearls for now. We will reach that 10 million figure with time. Just not in a week. How about that? Amon turned back to look in Orzon's direction. Listen here, old fox. The Lord needs those energy pearls as soon as possible. If you don't agree then. One of the other sect elders rushed in and started shouting as well. Then what? You will wage war against us? Damn it, 10 million energy pearls in a week? Does he think he's still the sect leader? Or does he think we are afraid of him? The soldiers around the space portal began to tighten their fists on their weapons again. After they all sighed in relief at hearing Amon's words about trade, this conversation returned to take the worst possible course. But in the face of the shouting, Amon gave a satisfied smile that showed his long, sharp fangs. Then he spoke quietly. Who said anything about waging a war? If you do not have enough energy pearls, we will go to complete our trade with the southern region. Is that a threat? Who do you think we are, you son of a? The same elder who shouted earlier raised his hands a little and was ready to lower them, ordering the advance of the troops to attack Amon and those with him. In fact, selling weapons to the southern region of the planet is the worst possible threat, which means that Robin will begin to control that region as he did with them. Or worse, he provides them with new types of weapons and talismans of his innovation in exchange for energy pearls only without controlling them. This means the presence of a formidable enemy on their borders in the south with a lot of new weapons that need to be tested in battles. The northern region is already a nightmare enough. They can have another threat from the south as well. Except for that elder, finally, everyone realized that Robin really didn't need to invade them himself in order to harm them. Siliph, shut your mouth, you stupid bastard. Boom! Before that old man lowered his hand, Orzon looked behind him and broke his nose with a punch. Blood spurted everywhere.